Order, Laura, are you in? We're good? Okay, so let's go ahead and stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so for roll call, we have Bob, Ed, Doug, and myself, and then Carol is absent and it will not be joining us online. Approval of the final agenda?
We have one item to add to the agenda. It's a declaration of intent resolution for bonds for the Utility Enterprise Fund for the Griffin Roundabout. Declaration of intent, Tony can probably opine and give a little bit better description.
Where is it on here?
It is not on there. It's a walk-on item.
We're not going to walk on a particular spot. Okay.
Wherever you consent. Would
I think consent.
Yeah, we had a nice conference call this morning, or Teams call, with Pedro Hernandez, bond counsel, Chelsea, Laura, and I, and Stephen Bloom, with regards to the ability to utilize the substantial amount of remaining funds from the 89 bond validation for the water and sewer revenue funds to help, not having to go through another validation process, to issue the necessary borrowing documents through the SRF loan program for a 20-year amortized construction loan with SRF. And part of that, Pedro articulated, it's important to have a declaration of intent to utilize the proceeds from that in order to be able to be reimbursed for certain expenses associated with that project. So we're asking the board, and he said do it sooner than later. Pardon?
60 days.
60 days. So that we're requesting that the board approve that. Pedro is drafting that declaration of intent to utilize the funding mechanism, bond series or bond issuance, to help fund the 20-year SRF loan construction. Of the this relates to the roundabout, but also on a go-forward basis too. We also have the irrigation well, and
it's not SRF. The funding for the roundabout was pulled from reserves.
from reserve.
Yeah, but what kind of funds are in that?
I think of the $89 million validated, I think there's what, $79 million that was never utilized or issued. Is that the correct number?
So this is an example of one of those that we talked about earlier.
That's
if
correct.
we would make it real big. Okay.
Yes,
gotcha.
back in '89.
But the bottom line is, if we take and do this, then we debt retire that deal and replenish our capital reserve that we yanked this out of.
Well, I was mistaken. I guess it is for the enterprise fund monies for that.
Yes.
But also may be helpful, depending upon where we are with the SRF loan, if we do the 5-year loan before we.
The total is ballpark.
$3 million.
Could,
After discussion,
could
I'll
these
make a
available
motion.
funds be used to get water meters?
Yes.
We had a discussion about that too.
Yeah, we're looking at all future projects for the enterprise fund and what funding mechanisms that we anticipate for those.
In 2013 or 2014, there was a the water and sewer revenue refunding bonds, I guess, were utilized to fund the current meter project.
What's the expiration date on this validation? 20 years, 30 years?
They didn't feel like there was really, I mean, it's out there, and you can borrow up to 40 years off of it. So I don't know if there's any real expiration date on it. That's something we can ask Pedro. But
Well,
So we'd like to add the resolution to the agenda item under consent agenda items.
9C, okay.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay.
Nice.
Anything
So-
else on the final agenda?
Anything else?
No.
No? So do you want a motion to approve the final agenda with the edits?
So moved.
So I have a motion and a second. On favor?
Aye.
Okay. Public comment?
All right, I have quite a few.
Okay.
The first one is
Hold
Margaret.
on, Laura. Just as a reminder for the board, let's have the residents speak for the whole 3 minutes and not interrupt, so they can have the whole 3 minutes, and we'll have conversation after.
And a reminder that they have 3 minutes.
Yes,
So,
that as well.
first up is Margaret Feinberg from Stony Brook regarding budget version 3.
Margaret Feinberg, Stony Brook at Gateway, representing myself. Like to draw attention to page 21 and 22 of the Stony Brook budget. I was hoping that the landscaping would have been on this agenda. It seems like it could have been added, just like you added this last item, but it wasn't. So when will we actually see the removal of that 126,000 in the landscape lead as far as the employee? That's my question on that. Also, I'd like to request that we remove the emergency reserve, which is 20,000, as you did for Pelican Preserve. Stony Brook is more than willing to fund any emergency that might come up. I can't imagine what that might be. So we'd like to request that be removed. And then I'd like to bring attention to page 3 of the budget, which shows the amount per fund that people are supposed to pay. That 767.20 was not updated to the 573.008. That was, it should come down even more, but it should have been updated. The numbers are not carrying through to the pages that they need to carry through to, because there's capital improvements, the budget, that should be 0. The 276 is too high. Page 57, the same thing. Stony Brook Reserve contributions, that shouldn't be
Hold on,
228.
Margaret, just, what, page 3 is not what I have.
Page 3 is where it shows what everybody's assessment is
Okay.
going to be. And that did not get updated. And the same thing is true with page 63. That's still showing the full amount for capital improvements. And we did take out the roadway reserves. And again, I'm requesting that the $20,000 for emergency reserves be removed from that. I again ask why we couldn't have done a walk-on for the landscape agreement, because it is complete. We have signed it. It has been agreed upon by both councils.
Okay. All right, so regarding the walking item, the landscaping, Chelsea and I talked briefly this morning. Do you want to just update them?
Yeah, so we did receive a partially executed landscape maintenance agreement from the Stony Brook HOA delivered to our office, I believe yesterday or the day before, this week regardless. This board, in speaking with Tony, can choose, so there's 3 things associated that need to be, if the board so chooses to move forward with that landscape maintenance agreement with the HOA, that would need to be approved. The amendment to the operation and maintenance agreement with Stony Brook, Exhibit B, needs to be updated, and then lastly, needs to be an amendment to the mainscape agreement, which you can choose to do those today verbally, and then we can bring those back to you and ratify them on the 17th. But I strongly recommend that they be included in an agenda packet.
Yeah, and with that, we will also have the exhibits attached, because they're an important component of it, and that'll be in the agenda packet. But the board can go ahead and authorize the chair to execute those. It's been reviewed by staff and council.
Okay.
So just to be clear too, when we received the landscape maintenance agreement, it did not include any of the exhibits, Exhibit A and B, so Tony had to add those, and we need to follow up with the HOA and just confirm that they initial and agree to the exhibits that were provided after the fact.
Okay.
So these actions would take place in 11C?
Or 9D?
It would be 3 items.
Okay.
So it'll be 9C,
Okay,
D, and E.
whatever, okay.
9C, D, and E.
We already have a C added, so D,
D,
E,
E,
F.
and F.
Mhm. So, does the board want to add that?
I have no problem.
Do we need a motion to add?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to add the 3 Stony Brook items as agenda items
D,
D,
and F.
E, and F.
So I have a motion.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, and then knowing that we're ratified on the 17th.
Yes.
Okay. And then the second question, I guess I will go to Laura regarding page 3 and page 63, that they were not updated. Do you have?
I get the file from Stephen. I looked at them. I must either, I have to check.
Okay. Then you just follow up with the.
So
But as-
these then need to be modified for revision.
I know I
Before the
didn't
meeting.
verify the tables. I verified the individual pages that the changes that I requested have been made. I didn't look at the tables.
Well, he's
to
going to be
make sure the
making
numbers
these
changed.
changes anyway.
Yes.
Okay.
We will operate under 11C with
For
with those
that, yes,
updates, with those updates in, under.
when Stephen is on the phone.
So we're going to have a 4, revision
Before.
4 before we get there anyway. so.
Before August
Yeah.
17th.
Okay. What else do we have?
Vince Lafredo has a Parks and Rec in the new budget.
Good afternoon, Vince Lafredo, Stony Brook. In May, it was brought to my attention, a flyer was handed out showing, at that time, not Parks and Rec, but dog park and soccer field. Over a 3-year period, we lost money as Gateway, over $750,000 in a 3-year period. I'm thinking that that's a concern of mine. Then looking at the new budget going into 2024, line items, first question I have is why isn't the swimming pool included with Parks and Rec? Secondly, Parks and Rec, it's a dramatic increase in payroll, and I see something happening here as a government entity. I see another department that seems to be growing, and my concern is attention to what the original purpose of a CDD is, to look at infrastructure. If you look at this as services, that's one thing, but we're looking at this as amenities. And this is the thing I'm concerned with. The growth is too dramatic, this type of a budget, that we're not paying more attention to infrastructure as opposed to amenities. The question I have, what has changed? Has there been a survey put out on the amenities in Gateway? Gateway population is not varying that much. So we're talking over, what, 10,000 residents. So we're looking at, okay, what has changed? Why is the emphasis on Parks and Rec as opposed to other things like sidewalks and roads and that type of thing? And that is my concern as a resident. And I'm speaking for myself, by the way. I just feel that it could get out of control. It's a concern I see coming down the line. It might look like a little amount of money right now, but it's pretty significant. Thank you.
What else do we have?
I have a bunch. Kathleen Flaherty regarding the budget. I'm going to. It's subjective, these are not.
Good afternoon. I'm Kathleen Flaherty from Stony Brook, and I have a couple of questions on page 55. Okay. I want to know what we're doing, what the staff is doing above the other communities with our meters and sewers that we have to pay that extra amount. I mean, we
Are you
are
talking about-
paying in the 001 fund. What are they doing in our community above that 001 fund?
Regarding what item?
It's on page 55. It's
Are you on page
the
55?
Public Works Director and the Public Works Facility Supervisor. We're paying 5% each, and I want to know what we're doing, what they're doing in our community above what they're doing in the other communities. Because I don't see them doing anything above what they're doing in the other communities, so why would we pay extra for it?
Is it?
Nope, I have some more. Okay. Also, I don't know why, by calculation, we're paying up to 19% of the salaries of Gateway, the increase of about 19%. I mean, we do pay into the 001, so why should we pay up to 19% more for the salaries? And my last question is because you're bonding so much. I don't know why you're bonding for the monuments, but you are. When was the public hearing for this bonding?
I don't know.
Where are you getting the 19%?
I want to make sure she's done.
It's about calculations through a whole bunch of things.
Okay.
That it's between 16 and 19% that we're paying into the increase of the salaries. Okay, it just goes through the whole bunch of pages,
Okay.
okay? So it's not any one page, it's a combination of pages, so, okay, so those are my questions.
Okay.
So, and like I said, do we have a date set for the bonding? Because I know that there are several people who are working right now who are upset about that and couldn't come today.
Do we have a date for the bond?
The bond's done.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, it was in March.
So for the building and everything, that's all set?
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
in March.
Okay, because they wanted to know. All right. Those are all my questions.
All right,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that was all the agenda items that I have. There are two non-agenda. First is Rod Senior regarding roundabouts.
Thank you, Rod Senior, Gateway Greens. Good afternoon, Board. You've received a letter from Chefi Pasadomo, Lou D'Agostino. This is through the roundabouts and the fact that we're on the hook for $2-3 million to shift the utilities for the county's projects. This letter, I've spoken to Lou. He thinks we've got a strong case, but I'd rather him tell you that. Primary strategy is that we should look at the clear and unambiguous terms of the Hold Harmless Agreement of 2017. And the clear and unambiguous terms say that we are responsible for shifting the utilities for road widening projects. And it also describes improvements in other parts of the definitions to include things like sidewalks, landscaping, drainage, water, signage, streetlights. It does not anywhere in the agreement state roundabouts. Nowhere. Not in the recitals, not in the definitions, not in clause 16. And because of the absence of roundabouts, Mr. D'Agostino thinks that we've got a case for clear and unambiguous terms. The court should give effect to plain and ordinary meaning of the terms in an agreement, according to the case law that Lewis presented. I've received a letter from Ed Sichel, who was the chair of the Road Turnover Committee, which I'll distribute at the end of this 3 minutes. The key parts of Ed's letter, which I've asked him to provide, is that both parties understood that road widening was indeed anticipated at the time we signed that agreement. That's up at the Stony Brook end of the Gateway Boulevard. We agreed that we would be responsible for utility moving at that time. However, there's absolutely no mention, I'm reading Ed's letter, absolutely no mention of roundabouts being contemplated by the county at any time during the road turnover negotiations. It certainly was not the intention of either party that the district will be saddled with an unlimited cost burden for moving its utilities for each and every project that the county cares to undertake on its roads. My committee would never have agreed to that. And it doesn't reflect the spirit of good faith in which the negotiations were carried out. I urge the board to be guided by third-party legal counsel and challenge the hardline position that the county appears to have taken with clause 16. It would be reasonable to expect the county to have expressly stated in clause 16 that roundabouts are included as an improvement in addition to road widening. They did not. Moving on, if you decide to move ahead with this and the court decides that it's not clear and unambiguous terms, that it indeed is ambiguous, then there's a lot of case law, which is very interesting that I've read through, that supports the fact that the county should have defined improvements anyway. In clause 16, it did not. Last point, 725.06, and I'm referring to Tony here, I guess. 725.06, in their opinion, does not apply to this particular indemnity because statute 725.06 generally refers to negligence or tortious acts, which this doesn't refer to. However, and I debated this with Lou, and I suggest you bring it up with him. 725.06 brackets 3 is the point, and it's very simple and interpreted literally. 725.06.3 says that one party cannot indemnify another party in a public agency construction agreement unless it's for the negligence and tortuous acts of the indemnifying party, which is us. This isn't the case. So therefore, we should not be indemnifying the county in this way. And there should also be a monetary limit according to that statute. Please question Lou D'Agostino about that. Final point, administratively, going forward, Lou is prepared to come and address you at this podium on October the 5th or September the 7th, at your choice. He's willing to come to either. It may make sense to keep your foot on the pedal and keep this while the iron is hot, but I know Chelsea's got a lot going on, and I would let you guys decide which of those dates. I can't make September the 7th. I'll be in Europe, but that doesn't matter. The thing is for Lou D'Agostino to be here so he can ask him key questions, and those would be
October 5th and September 7th.
First meetings of the
First two
either
meetings of
September
this as
or
well.
the first meeting of October.
Okay.
okay. Last point, and I'm conscious of the clock. The questions I would ask him if I was on the board, which I've already kind of asked him, and I guess you'll have your own questions, is number one, what are the goals here? Is it to get our money back from the county? Or is it to clarify clause 16 so we're not signing a blank check forever? It could be both, in my opinion. Thirdly, what is the chance of success? I don't think he'll commit to that. A lot of litigation people don't. However, you can ask him. What is the budget? In other words, how much are we going to blow on legal fees to get something out of this? I don't know the answer to that, but I do know that Ed and I used him back in 2013 to bring Comcast down, and we did. It cost us $15,000. But I can't speak for Lou. He will give you a budget if you ask him. And finally, timeline. Timeline, how long will it take to get something satisfied on this? According to Lou, it depends on the judge.
Okay.
It depends whether he will, if it's clear and unambiguous, there could be an early summary judgment, and this could be over in a matter of a few months.
I have just a quick question for Rod.
That's the end.
I'm directing it at you, but I'm going to open it up to anyone at the table that can answer it. I remember Ed and the committee going through and what was happening at that time. I also recall around that same time, there was conversations around lights, traffic lights. I think it would be important to see if Ed or if there's any documentation around conversations around the traffic lights. Because I think we were under
You mean signals?
Signals, yes, signals. I think we were operating under the impression that due to traffic increasing, that there would be traffic lights needed at some point in the future.
I'm not aware of that.
Okay.
Doug.
And I don't know if that was direct, I don't know with the road turnover if that was part of the conversation, but I would be curious if Ed remembers anything, because the reason why I say it is if we were operating under the assumption that an enhancement would happen down the road and we had conversations, either direct or indirect, around lights, and we were anticipating that, one or two or whatever, and then that decision shifted to roundabouts, and I think from what I remember with the proposals is that the cost for the roundabout versus the cost for the lights
Long-term.
was long-term was fairly comparable. Now, that did not, I don't think that accounted for our cost. So from the county's perspective, light versus roundabout, was a wash over time. But from our perspective, it's not. So if lights was part of the conversation, that's what we were anticipating, which would have been zero cost to us from, I don't think we had moved any utilities, and that has shifted, then that is something that's net new. Like that was not something that we were anticipating, so therefore it was an additional burden or whatever the legal term you want to call it.
Okay.
That would change, that would move the goalpost for me a little bit, I think. And we could talk about that, but I'm just curious if Cecil has any recollection of that.
He does not.
Okay.
But Ed was on the same committee as Ed. I wasn't party to all this negotiation.
I know we had conversations at that time, I don't know if it was happening.
I
but-
do not know
I
whether
was-
traffic lights
I was vice
were
chair at the time, and I
discussed.
can tell you categorically, if it had come out that we were going to be spending $2 to $3 million and had that vulnerability, that dog would have never
Oh, yeah,
heard it.
absolutely.
We
But
would
did
have
you
never
guys-
approved it.
But did you have any conversations,
No.
officially or unofficially around traffic lights at all? Was that?
We had discussion about lights. We did not talk about roundabouts at all.
Yeah, I
never
want to
came
say,
up.
but you talked about lights as a potential solution.
Signals.
At some point down the road that it would be needed.
I think it's important to, you'll have to.
Do you see where I'm going with that?
Yeah, I do. You'll have to unravel this, but talking about it is different from what's documented. And I think you need to look at what's documented at the time you negotiated with the
Yeah,
county.
we need to go back and research, but in the
Talking
meantime,
about it's not going to go anywhere, I don't think.
in the meantime, I think we need to get this quicker than later. I understand we have some vulnerability. I understand that. But the issue is that what has happened to us to this point, what has happened to us on that water issue, that was just a slap in the face to Gateway, a slap in the face. The county is not our friends. They've shown that quite often. It's time that I think we take a stand, get Louis in here on the 7th of September. That gives him plenty of time. And then we can make a decision by the October meeting of how we want to go forward.
Fair enough. I want to say this, Ed, in response to that. I want the board to see that, at least from my standpoint, we're not, if we challenge the county on this, we're not reneging on an agreement that we made, because we never made an agreement to pay this kind of money for roundabouts. What we would be reneging on is if we didn't cough up the money for the road widening at the top of the boulevard when it happens, then we'd be reneging, and then there's a spirit of bad faith. But we're not reneging, because we never agreed to this roundabout
Yeah.
deal.
All right.
Okay?
All right. Thank you, Rod.
Thank you.
All right, I have one more. Joe McCulca, request consideration of landscaping agreement. I think that's been addressed, but you got your 3 minutes.
At the time I submitted that, it had not been addressed. But in any case, we've worked very hard trying to make this happen. It has bounced back and forth. The attorneys have worked on it. The idea was to take over the landscaping, not to modify the operations and management agreement, and just to make an amendment to it. In any case, the agreement that we did submit was negotiated and determined, and I believe approved by both Tony and Darren already, and before I signed it. And I'm basically asking you to take a look at it today. I'll sit here if you have questions when you get around to it, and be more than happy to be available. I'll stop there. That subject, I'm done. There was a comment on by Kathy Flaherty that I think she might have had it reversed. The 19% that she was talking about is actually how much payroll is paid out of the money that Stony Brook puts into the 001 fund. We pay, like everybody else except one community, into the 001 fund. In fact, we as a community are only surpassed by Gateway Greens because of their sheer numbers and the total amount that is put in that account. On a per door basis, nobody pays more than Stony Brook. We pay more because of the additional funds that are taken out of the 004 fund to put into the 001 account. And I was also wanted to ask a question on the meeting on the 17th. Will there be a vote still then to make modifications, or does everything have to happen today?
On the 17th.
We can make changes up to the
17th
last
is,
day.
17th is the
Okay.
day. That it's
That's the
final.
final day. So some things, if it's not finalized today, can still be handled.
Yes.
Except for going up.
Except for going
Go
up.
down.
Well, I wasn't talking about going up.
You cannot go up.
I don't
Alrighty.
think that was even a thought in his mind. But he probably won't sleep now when you said that.
Make sure we all
It has
know.
been an issue of late, let me tell you. Anyway, I'm done. That's
Okay,
basically
I do
what I
have a
want to
question.
say.
So regarding what you're
Good.
talking about, the 19%, you're talking about the combinations on page 55, right? Because if we reduce the 5.
I don't know it by
I think
page
that's what it is.
55.
So I'm doing the math and I remove
Okay.
5%. That's exactly what I got, 19%.
Yeah.
So it's not the whole amount. But we do know that that is going to go down. It just, so I think
we
that's what Kathy
understand that.
didn't know, that it will go down because we're,
We'll be adjusting the
Alright.
numbers. I know we've
Okay.
hit the right high level of the whole thing, high water
Alright.
mark. No question about it. But I did want to make a statement just to make the point. The Stony Brook pays its share and then some. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
I did have time to check on that table that she referenced.
Okay.
It did go down $350 from version 2 to version 3.
Table
In-
3?
Yeah, in
On page
version,
3?
on page 5. The version 2 amount for Stony Brook, under the amount per fund was $1,112.64, and in version 3, it's $767.20.
But my page 5, our page 5.
Or page
is
3,
counted.
I'm sorry,
different.
page 3,
Okay.
page 3, page 3. It was document page 5, budget
Okay.
page 3. On the table.
Okay, what are the changes?
In version 2, it was,
So I was thinking for dinner, I wanted to have
I'm sorry we don't know what you're gonna want to have for dinner, but
Two birds with pride, yes.
now I want to know. I want to know.
If it's pizza, bring it.
I'm kind of hungry. All right, so version 2 for Stony Brook, under the amount per fund was $1,112.64. And in version 3, it's $767.20. So the net change in version 2 was $544.09, and in version 3, it's $197.81. So it went down about $350.
Okay, so on version 3 on mine, I have 171746.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the total. And in version 2, it was $2,063.74.
Okay. And then now is,
At 1717, what you have, version 3.
17,
So the net
46.
change on version 3 from fiscal 23 to fiscal 24 is $197.81.
What we
And in
showed.
version 2, it was
Yeah.
$544.09.
but
So it
it's
went,
right.
That's what's.
That's-
in the-
that's what- that's
what's
what
in
I know,
there
but
right
they were
now.
saying the numbers weren't updated, but they were. So
Yeah, okay.
that's what I wanted to show you, is that I checked, and from version 2 to version 3, it did change.
Okay, 'cause
And they were
that's what-
saying that it didn't,
Okay.
so, but it did.
Okay.
So were they looking at version 3?
So
I
our
don't know.
page 3 is correct.
Yes, our version 3 is correct, and I just wanted to point out that from version 2
And in
to
the
version 3,
details of version
it did
3,
change.
the
It's also
adjustments are
correct.
also in there. Okay,
Yes,
so
I
you're just looking at
verified
older
the
version.
adjustments, yeah, and
Yes.
I didn't verify the tables in version 3, but I verified the individual pages with the adjustments, and so I went back and compared the tables while they were talking.
So whatever
Thank
we do later on 11 D, E, and F,
It's gonna decrease even more.
that's going to create a different one. So it would be nice to have those. They'll be in the book a week in advance of the meeting,
Yes.
so we
Yep.
can do one last
Revision.
perusal of this.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. All right, no more other comments? Nobody
No,
online?
no other comments. No one online has their hand raised, and you don't have any emails or faxes that you haven't already been sent.
All right, thank you. Local achievements, and do we have anybody? No, nobody from the board? Okay. Advisory committees and items to report, don't have anything?
Bob, I didn't know if you want to mention the discussions between the safety and security meetings. with
No, I don't
some-
think there's any changes. We're okay.
So approval of minutes, need a motion?
I didn't have anything. Motion to approve.
Second.
Are we doing them all?
Yes,
A and B.
yeah, A and B. So I have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Consent agenda items, so we have A, B, C will be bond utility in the 1989
The
Pool,
declaration of intention.
declaration, okay.
pool B for discussion.
And then D, E, and F will be the Stony Brook agreement, the O and M revision, and the Mainscape contract.
Yes.
So I'll make a motion to approve A, C, D, E, and F.
Well, wait a minute. Before we do that, A has a July 4th meeting next year.
No, it doesn't?
Did he? I missed that one.
And B,
I missed that.
Item
A.
A,
The
9A.
the board agenda schedule.
okay.
It shows us to be meeting
Yeah, I don't know.
on July 4th.
Well,
July 4th, folks.
you're gonna be in the dunk tank, that's why.
Well, I don't mind that.
Okay.
What do we
that-
want, what
do we
what
want
have
at
we
that
done
meeting?
historically? with
Some-
the
somebody-
I think it was highlighted.
It was
because
highlighted.
To call it out, so we'll need to decide what we want to do for that meeting. So it's not set in stone, she highlighted it, may not show in, if you're.
Yeah, it's
I say we just pull it.
It's highlighted, so I mean, it's up for
I say we just
discussion.
skip that week and
Do it another week or
One
something?
week.
Just have
Either,
one meeting in July.
either do it another week or do it, skip it all.
For July, it is budget.
Okay, then if we're all okay with it being there without resolving it today, then I'm okay. Then I have no other
I don't know.
question about
I don't have
it.
any problems.
So A, C, D, E, what
And
you,
F.
and F?
yeah, A, C, D, E, and F.
Okay. I
Second.
don't have any problem, just as long as we pro B for discussion.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a
For that.
second, in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
D,
So, real quick, B, you're pulling the piggyback, Lee County. for
yeah,
the
I'm
80.
trying to figure out, this just, we sit here and talk about that park, good God, $68,000 for a study, for ADA study in Gateway? Give me a break. You talk about, I can't approve that. I think that's an absolute waste of money. Absolute waste of money. We can get somebody in here to do ADA compliance And I'm hoping that Dickens, they can surely do it less than $68,000. I don't even know how many people it impacts in this community.
Well, let me be clear, we have the, Brian on the line. It is not just the park, it is every
I
gateway,
understand that.
every gateway district asset. We have the sidewalks. It's making, and coming out, reviewing and assessing and identifying all of our out of compliance.
I'd like to get an alternate bid or an alternate proposal. This is a professional service, I assume. I'd like to get an alternate proposal.
Yeah.
That price just seems absurd to me.
I think with everything that's going on, and my recommendation would be to table this for a later time period.
This was in the bond, so we have 3 years to complete this project.
Okay.
If you
I
want to
think maybe
delay
like
it.
next year, when the administrative building, all that stuff might make more sense to table it.
Okay.
Okay.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
what I'd like to do when we get to the item with regards to declaration of intent, I can read the title at least, so the board knows.
Okay.
I have it pulled up.
I printed it too. and
You're
it
okay. Sorry, Chelsea.
It's
did
okay.
not know that.
What's he saying?
So item C, he wants to read the title for the consent agenda.
Was there a vote to table the item?
I'll second it if you're voting.
I'll vote it, yeah.
Okay.
So-
I'll
The
second.
table B.
To table B
Table
only,
B,
yeah. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, then we want a motion to approve consent agenda items A, B, and then C. You want to read the title?
Yes, the title would be, it's resolution 2023 dash, whatever the next number is in series, 31. The title is authorizing declarations of official intent under U.S. Treasury regulations with respect to reimbursements from note and bond proceeds of temporary advances made for payments prior to issuance and related matters. And this with regards to compliance with the reimbursement regulations. And it's provides that each authorized officer is authorized to prepare and sign declarations of official intent in substantially the form attached with regards to respect to original expenditures, and the form is attached. And so we would request that be approved this third day of August 2023.
Thank you, Tony.
That is the suggested motion.
Yes, to adopt that
I'll make that
resolution,
motion.
declaration of official intent, yes.
So we have a motion. Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye. Good catch. Close.
Pedro has been very helpful and incredibly helpful.
Okay. So you want to do 11?
What about 10?
We're doing-
They're not here.
He was on.
Oh.
Stephen Gabby's on.
Oh,
Steven?
he's probably here for the Daniels Parkway Apartments.
Okay.
So there's no.
There's nothing for the district.
All right. So 11 administrative agenda items.
So we have representatives from
All right.
FPL here for this item. This is the presentation of the conversion of the Greater Gateway lights. We are working with, at the direction of the board, with Eric and his team for the Pelican side as requested. But this is for the Greater Gateway side. So with that, I'll turn it over to Eric.
Just really quick, so what they're doing in Pelican, essentially that's a separate project?
Yes.
Okay.
Same thing. An individual project.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay.
For the record, Eric calling, Florida Power and Light.
Zachary Jarrell, Project Manager, Florida Power and Light.
All right, if you want to pull up the summary page. First, I'd like to thank the board for the continued commitment throughout this project. Been very responsive. Direction has been very crystal clear. I'd like just to thank the district manager and staff as well for the same reasons. This has moved very smoothly for us to get to this point today, to provide you with a summary and hopefully a vote on the item. What you're looking at here is an updated document that was actually not in the submitted agenda. This is a summary of all of the items that were in the agenda. So thought this might help to kind of clarify some of the items and the scope of the project. Does everybody have that up on their screen that they can see that?
Whatever you see up there.
Perfect. Okay. So the first thing that would happen here with the existing poles, fixtures, and handholds at each pole, those would be removed. There's 274 poles, a total of 374 fixtures. And again, those handholds are located at the base of those 274 poles. As part of our scope, we would be removing those and disposing of those facilities. The cost for that, you can see, is $356,122.78. We would be installing almost 53,000 feet of new conduit and cabling in order to service the new proposed lighting throughout the district. Out of that roughly 53,000 feet, we're going to be looking to directional bore about 20,000 feet. Again, obviously, directional boring is going to be limited disruption to roadways, driveways, sidewalks, really any areas that we're not able to rapid trench. The rest of the 53,000 feet, we would be looking to what's called rapid trench construction method. That's going to be within the grass areas. There is actually not a cost associated with our rapid trench construction method. So the cost for installation of $117,884.42, that is to cover the differential cost of that 20,000 feet of bore that we would have to do. Within the project scope, we look to maximize the availability of, we feed directly off of our transformers, and they're along the main boulevards. There are some limited access points. So with the length of the runs that we're looking at, that actually dictates a larger handhole at the base of each pole in order to make that connection.
1 second, Eric.
Yep, I was just gonna ask.
You want to move Bob to
No,
Carol's
I'm okay.
seat?
I'm watching
Because
this.
he can use the. Good?
I'm okay.
Go ahead, Eric, sorry.
Yeah, no problem. The 24-inch handholds compared to a standard 17-inch handhole allows us to use a bigger wire, which is necessary in order
Oh,
to.
Sorry, you unplugged me.
Obvious. Sorry.
Just bear with us.
No, we're fine.
There we go, I'm back on.
No problem.
I'm up, but Carol's is on.
Yeah. Are you
It's like
on?
Christmas tree lights, right?
Are you on? Oh, no.
I'm still on.
Carol's is off. Carol's is on.
I'm on.
Oh, Doug's off.
I'm on.
I guess it's like Christmas tree lights. That was a bad one. Carol's is
Doug.
Carol's is off.
We need one of those little tapes around it that says
Oh,
Susan too.
that's, you're getting close. Sorry, y'all. Oh, that's mine. Last but not least, right? All right, I'm stopping. Sorry, you're gonna have to share today.
I'm sure it's not going.
You can log into web meeting on his iPad.
Well, I tried to do that.
I'm done.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, sorry.
No problem, no problem.
Always looking where you're dressed, I got a problem.
So I was talking about the 24-inch handholds that we're going to have to install and the associated cost of the $52,190.74. So a 24-inch handhole allows us to make the connections because of the longer runs. So we have to use larger wire, and those larger handholds allow us to make those connections in order to make those longer runs. As I mentioned, we tie directly off of transformers. We're utilizing all existing transformers. We just had to install 2 new transformers. Associated costs with those 2 transformers would be $53.76. And this is all part of the upfront or contribution in aid of construction per our LT1 tariff. What the tariff calls for as well would be also a calculation of what our 4-year earned annual revenue would be, which is based on the energy usage of the luminaires for this project. So there is a credit applied towards the construction cost of the $32,908.80. And in addition to that, the district had paid an engineering deposit of $15,000 in order to move forward with our full-scale design study. And that would be applied towards the CIAC cost should the board wish to move forward with the project. So total upfront cost for this project to remove all existing lighting identified within scope throughout Gateway Boulevard, which is encompassing Gateway Boulevard, Griffin Drive, the Gateway Greens area, is shown here actually in the lighting table. The total cost for the project up front would be the $483,629.14. Within the agreement, and we'll get to this, but I wanted to call out the overhead wire, the underground conduit, the 17-inch handholds throughout the project. Within the provision of the tariff, there is what's called an ALC, or additional lighting charge. These are the items in addition to the fixture rental, the pole rental, and the ongoing maintenance of the poles and fixtures. That maintenance also is applied to these items here. So we own and maintain the entire lighting system. And the light count by street, that is what the breakdown is of the new proposed lighting system for the district.
These would be 3,000 Kelvin lights.
Yes, that is correct.
When I went through this in a lot of detail, I thought I counted 277.
We had some minor adjustments over the past week.
Sorry.
Okay, I think we're gonna have more.
Yesterday we had some, and this morning.
Well, I'll wait till we get questions.
Okay.
So I think the next thing is the generator, show what the monthly
Generator
cost would be.
toolbox.
So this is the top line number there that you're looking at, the $10,691.30. That would be the monthly cost to the district for all of the fixtures. And again, that's going to include rental of the poles, the fixtures. That also includes the energy and the maintenance for the entire system.
It's all in.
That is all in.
What are we paying right now?
There's no number on here for pole.
So I'll go through each page the way we had to do it, because the way our Excel sheet here calculates, it's hard to do. There's some fixtures which were on a taller pole, some were on a shorter. So what we did here is there's 9 separate pages, and that is encompassing of what how many poles and the breakdown exactly.
So is 595 the total number of poles?
No, that is the total number of poles and fixtures.
You've got a lot
So-
of duplicates.
Okay.
Laura will pull your,
Do what?
Laura will get you an answer to your question.
I'm looking it up.
Something to
Do you
compare
wanna
to
keep-
10,000,
Yeah,
691
to
per month.
current. She's
So
pulling it.
the $480,000 is not amortized into this or anything. That's just a cash payment, of which then we pay $10,691 every month till whatever.
Correct. That's correct. So the main cost associated with that upfront payment is obviously the removal and disposal of the existing facilities.
The reason I brought that up is because I was not aware that we were spending $120,000 a year lighting. I thought our real Achilles heel was the 2 million, 5 million, 8 million that we're gonna have to pay to fix it. I thought that was our real Achilles heel.
If we own the system, yes.
Yes.
It's both, I guess.
I think what the evaluation, and not speaking for the board, was originally what started this project was understanding that you've got a 30-year-old lighting system that the district owns and
There's our
maintains.
problem.
And what is the difference between a capital cost for the district to replace that system and maintain it compared to what the utility offering would be.
Okay,
The other items which were contained within this are granular, more than happy to go through them, but they are the actual design of the system, showing where the fixtures would be located, where the poles would be located, the underground, et cetera. If the board wishes, more than happy to go through those, but it's about 78 pages to that design.
okay. I was gonna say, I met with Eric yesterday,
Monday.
Monday, yeah, okay. And so I got most of my questions, and we kind of talked about the revision, so I don't have anything because I was able to cover all my questions with him.
Thank you.
But if he's done, if you want to open with Ed or.
I
open
have
with
just
Doug.
one question around 2 different areas, and I know that we tried to scope this out as thoroughly as possible, but I have 2 areas that I'm not sure that we discussed, that I just kind of thought about. One is this road. Did you already give me a heads
That's
up on
what's
that?
added,
Yeah,
that's part of it.
piece.
is the added number.
That's now been included.
And what about
Fairway?
any
is office
desire
park?
around the linear park area? That road.
We did not include down the linear park. We just include along the thoroughfares of Griffin and Gateway.
So you added this road out
We
here.
added soccer and we
But
added.
Fairway you
Eagle
left
Point.
off.
We had Eagle Point
Eagle
Drive.
Point.
Yeah, we added Eagle Point as well as within that parking lot and the playground.
The fun park
There's
is-
one pole there that we'd also be
And what about,
replacing.
what about Commerce Lakes Drive east to Daniels?
Yes. Well, I just signed a conversion agreement to get those to LED
That's what I
as
was
soon
gonna
as
say.
possible.
Those are
The
exist.
poles would stay, but the LED, they changed to LED.
That's correct. Those are existing FPL facilities. So Chelsea had just executed the conversion agreement for just the fixtures.
And just while we're on that, so if linear park, quote unquote, linear park is out of scope for this future opportunity, level of effort on that is,
I don't see it being a difficult task. whatsoever.
Truth be told, I'd like for us, if we move forward with this, is to get, because part of this is getting a permit internally from FPL, from your transmission folks,
Yes.
for some lower poles and lights. So
Yeah,
I'd like for us
all-
to be,
in that area.
In the
we
area.
have
so-
all on Griffin.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, all we're looking for is walking lights.
Well, you got
You know,
40,
it's,
45.
you're not looking at driving lights.
You got
That's,
45, 40, and 30s, correct?
And tens. So I'm glad you brought that
Yeah,
up.
I
I
didn't
want to
see
call
the
attention to
10s.
that. Within our transmission corridor, so along where we cross on Griffin Drive, where the lighting would be there, we're going to have to go down to a 10-foot pole with a post-top style fixture on that.
Yeah, I missed
And
that.
that's dictated by our transmission. And the same would also be along Gateway Boulevard, again, where it crosses through the transmission. Now, what we did was, yes, we're going down to a 10-foot pole with a post-top traditional fixture, similar to what you have in the communities currently, the four-sided fixture. We kept the lighting levels, though, the same. So it's a lower lumen fixture. They have to be a little bit closer. Between both transmissions, there's only a total of 22 units.
okay, I was looking.
You did.
Yeah, I'm good, yeah.
I got several.
Look, can I answer your question first? You asked about
Which one?
what our current monthly payment is
Yeah.
for just Gateway.
Yeah, what's our annual payment? Because I can divide it
We're
by
about
12.
$3,600 a month.
Just for streetlight.
Just for streetlights. Mind you,
The
that,
bill is much larger than that, but the streetlight portion is.
that's
Okay,
not
I don't care about that. What's our total all-in bill right now?
for, like, including maintenance.
Yeah, we pay them for that maintenance.
No, we
don't.
own the lighting
We
system.
own the lighting.
Yeah.
So we're
We
in,
pay the
what do we pay ourselves? Or what are we
We'd have-
incurring?
We'd
I'll
have,
have to look that
we'd
up.
have to.
What
look
are we
at
on the
that.
hook for?
That'll take a little more work.
We'll go on to that because I don't think any of that has anything to do
Because
with
all the
anything.
composites have to,
Yeah,
the cost greater than the 10.
that's not the issue. The issue is the
The
capital.
upfront.
The
cost.
capital is the problem. Okay, let's go to page 33, if you would,
Wait, 33 of
his drawings. I
You've
don't know
you've
what page it.
updated them, so
Yeah. I
since
don't know which
then.
thing you're looking at. have
I want
five
Gateway
copies.
Greens Drive.
141,
That should be
page
the same.
141.
Okay,
This one?
the photometrics.
Page
Or
141.
page, maybe page
141.
54 is the
Hold on a minute.
plan.
10 pages.
Yes.
Hold
Page
on.
141 on my board book.
Like, you going board book or?
141 on the
Because they're
board book.
different,
Oh, you're
yeah.
fine.
I think everybody's going to want to know about these.
Which page?
141 on the board book.
He wants to go to Gateway Greens.
It's Gateway
Just go
Greens
down.
Drive, clear west end.
Near the tennis courts?
Yeah.
I'm familiar with it.
Okay, there's 6 more lights from where you end to the west.
There was a question of road ownership.
That road is owned by the country club, but the
Okay.
lights are there and have been there since Christ was a child.
Okay.
So we need lights all the way to the end of that road for safety.
And Chelsea, I'm going to defer to you. Where does the district ownership end? As obviously the lights are going to be within,
District ownership goes all the way on past that road, all the way into Arborwood. We own,
Okay.
we,
So you're
Arborwood's a
past-
part of our
you're
district.
past the tennis courts,
Well, we need to confirm ownership of those lights. I know down Gateway
They're
Greens.
part of yours. They're on that,
Okay.
got that emblem on them and all that stuff.
Okay.
I'm
So
not spending a bunch of legal money to chase that goose again.
one of,
That
one
was
of,
ridiculous.
one of the issues that I know you had asked me for utility easement rights, so if they're owned by the golf course and there's not already existing utility easements for those, we may have to get those, but we
Those
can
lights,
include
those
those.
lights have been there, like I said, since Christ was a child.
Yeah.
They are a part of the FPL system,
So we'll need to
or a part
add-
of the gateway system.
Okay.
That's
That's on
issue
Gateway-
one.
That's on Gateway
But
Greens
if you
Drive.
don't
Gateway
find
Greens
it,
Drive
then-
on the west end.
then
There's
we'll
6
go
more
ahead and
lights
do it.
to the west of what's showing.
Just gonna
Now, here's my problem.
But we need to confirm the easement. is what
And
you're
then if we don't, we'll go ahead and have one. Is that what you're saying?
We'll get him to add them.
Yeah. Okay, the next issue, those are 30 footers is the way I look at it. Read this, these plans. Is that-
Along Gateway
Are
Greens,
they, or are they 40 footers?
along Gateway Greens.
Gateway Greens Drive.
They are actually,
On this page, it says 40. Okay.
it is a 30-foot overall, but it is buried. So it's actually going to be right around a 24-foot mounting height.
24 foot.
That's
Okay.
correct.
My reason bringing that up is look at that page right there.
The trees?
The trees, I looked at it today and walked it.
Yes.
The birds in the top of the tree are gonna be real happy. They're gonna have good lighting.
So
That light will never hit the ground.
as part of
It's
this,
solid
as
trees.
part of this entire project, there will have to be consideration taken around the trees throughout the entire district.
saying. So what you
Put
have-
that in English.
Yeah, trim the trees.
You're
or
talking
close
about
the
taking
holes.
trees out.
Maybe.
That is going to be at the district's discretion.
Yeah, the
If you go
agreement
down
says-
that road, I'm telling you people in Gateway Greens, this is a hot subject right now.
Yeah,
And
the-
I've learned you don't talk about taking down oak trees.
Okay,
It's a
Yeah,
good
the
way to
agreement
get
provides
burned.
the district responsible for any tree trimming or tree removals in conflict with proposed new pole locations.
So-
But my problem is that the poles right now are 20 footers and we're just barely under the canopy or at the canopy and it's bad.
Yeah.
You take those up 8, 10 feet and you're in never land.
So we were looking to be able to utilize and maximize or minimize the amount of fixtures and poles used, with also keeping into consideration your existing poles are 20 feet. So the combination that we utilize there is actually the shortest pole that will support a kind of
Well,
standard.
my whole thing, I was worried about that this is predicated, this whole thing, and I want to make sure this is perfectly clear. This is not predicated on removing a lot of oak trees to be able to make it work.
We do not trim trees, we do not remove trees as part of our scope.
How do you get the lumens on the ground if the tree's in the way?
Again, that would be at the discretion of the board.
So let me-
So we're
Here, let-
going to be the bad
Ed,
guys.
Ed, so here, so Chelsea had, so we talked about this Monday and we talked about again today. So Chelsea had requested from FPL to go in and stake out now what the proposed poles are. And if there's a tree or if there's something that it's in a way, but we want to try to save it, we'll move that a little bit one way or another. It may not work for every single tree, but that's the goal, to save the most amount of tree on those areas that they're needed.
I can understand that. Then the other one is that you mentioned was you're connecting into the transformers. As we know right now, or as I know in Gateway Greens, it's a continuous circuit system, both up West Links and up Gateway Greens Drive. And we have 3 photocells. One photocell's behind the country club, the golf maintenance building. One's down there at the entrance into Gateway Greens, and the other one's halfway down West Links Drive. Those lights come on, the lights come on. As I see this, we're going to have along Gateway Greens Drive and along West Links, 8, 9 transformer connections. Are we going to have a photocell at every transformer?
No, the photocells actually are on each
On the
fixture.
lights.
They're
itself.
on the fixtures.
That is correct.
So then
The
we're
no-
hot, so then we're hot all the time.
That is correct.
That's a difference than what we've got right now.
Yes.
Right now, those lines, you go out there in the middle of the daytime, you can dig it up and you can chew it, and nothing happened.
Correct.
Go out there at nighttime, you'll get frosted. That's gonna be different. It's gonna be hot all the way.
That is correct.
Somebody needs to
Let me
know
ask you a
that.
question.
Well, and,
if I
and
think
and
I'm-
that's pretty standard for
I
all
understand that,
electric
but it's
service.
not what everybody here is used to. Everybody's here used to, well, if I go out there in the daytime and I do anything and touch a CDD pole, I don't have a problem because it's dead. It's dead.
Let me
Where's-
ask you a
good-
question.
Good way to get fried, but going on, let me finish because there's issues here.
Sure.
We've
Well, I wanna
got
understand
one
where you
hell of
are.
a lot
Hold
of
on
trees.
Hold on 1 second, just kind of so I'm catching up to where you are. If the pole increases in size, are you concerned that the fixture is going to be above the foliage and won't illumine the street?
That's
Correct.
exactly
Okay,
my
so
problem.
if we lower the fixture on the pole or lower the poles or both so that you get plenty of lumens, then you're going to be below, the photometric will be below where.
You add more
I'd rather,
poles.
you'd add more poles.
You add
I'd
more
rather, somebody made this statement a while ago. I'd much rather have you all come in, do some markings with ribbon, whatever, to the trees that are, let's say, going to be collateral damage. Because we cannot take and do what you're saying, because you're gonna have so damn many poles, it won't be funny. You start doing that. I agree with what the design is. I've just known all along this was coming.
Well, does the tree have to come out or can you just trim it?
Well,
Trim it.
here's my point. Here's my point for bringing it up, and there might be something obvious that I'm missing. But West Links Drive, the entire west side of West Links Drive, we just finished it. We just finished the trees, the trimming of the oaks and trimming of the deers. There's 138 trees. 138 trees. You go across the street and there's barely a tree. Well, why don't we put all the lights up the east side instead of the west side? I mean, if I was an engineer out there doing that, I would have thought that would have been intuitively obvious. Put the tree, put
We
the street
did it.
lights. It might be an easement issue. It would be
No,
the
it was
only
a
thing I can
construction
think of.
cost issue.
Do what?
We'd have to
Before.
directional bore everything on the east side because that's where primarily driveways are, if I'm remembering
But
correct.
your problem is that's nothing compared to you got all the utilities of Gateway on the west side. That west side from the curb to the fence has got all the utilities in it.
Understood.
So I don't know how you're gonna do it without
And
directional boring.
our underground utilities is a 2-inch conduit, 18 to 24 inches.
That's where you're going, that's your depth.
That's correct.
And we got Comcast, we just put in there, we got all of our communication cable in there. I'll tell you, in our community, because we ran into it with the Comcast installation.
Yeah.
You can't hardly dig and or directional boring, and you don't hit something. What I'm trying to tell you is on the opposite side of the road, there's nothing over there,
Understood.
not in the zone where you're at. So that was one question. Then the other one I've got is that,
Hold on, really quick. So that's his suggestion, and on here, we're already boring on that. Back and look at photometrics about flip-flopping.
But then the cost, remember that I just pulled up my notes. That's exactly,
Well,
the
set-
more trenches because it's cheaper versus the boring. That's
Well, they're
exactly
boring
what.
on the left, so.
Well,
they have to bore on the right.
We designed it as boring on the left with the hope actually to rapid trench and ultimately bring that CIAC cost down.
good example is go up Gateway Boulevard, once you get past Hidden Lakes. All of the streetlights are on the right-hand side. They're on the east side. We're putting these new lights in on the west side. What's the difference? What's the difference?
Where?
Go up Gateway Boulevard, go past Hidden Lakes, you're going up to Stony Brook. All those streetlights are on the right-hand side, the east side. We're putting in the light,
No,
guys,
Yeah, I believe they are.
I've been here a few years.
Yeah.
They're on the east side. We're putting, as I saw in this drawing, we're putting all the new lights on the west side.
My belief would
Unless
be,
I missed something, I thought they were
side-
all on the west side.
we had conversations regarding sidewalk illumination. And we were utilizing the backlight of the fixture for sidewalks.
I understand that. I understand that. I'm just pointing out that I see one on one and not
Sure.
on another. What's the
There was,
the issue?
the methodology there was to illuminate the sidewalk, which is the request of the
All,
board.
all our lights in Gateway Greens are all what I call shoebox,
Yes,
that design.
Yep.
Now we're going to go with a different kind of design on our two main drags. But I tried to look in your plans and a lot of this electricalese, I didn't go into and find out, what does this light actually look like, the head and the fixture? Right now, we've got a real simple stick out with a shoebox.
yes.
Am I reading that these other ones are going to stick out like maybe 6, 8, 10 feet?
Yeah, we would be utilizing a 12-foot bracket primarily on Griffin and Gateway Boulevard with a probably 8-foot bracket per the photometric on Gateway Greens, for
Okay,
example.
what do you, I'm going to get hit. What do we have around here that I can send people to look at to see what that post looks like? I just want to, I want to know it's not ugly.
Actually use your roundabout. Now, not the metal pole, but the fixture is very similar.
At Commerce Lakes?
That's correct.
Okay. And we're going with concrete poles here.
That's correct.
And are they knocked down?
No,
Well, they're not.
they are not.
They're solid concrete poles.
That is correct. Solid direct bury concrete.
I thought they were all going to be knocked down.
No.
Okay. I think that hit the deal on checking. I just like to see somebody come out and take a real close look, because I don't know how you're going to get the lumens with these trees. Along Gateway Greens Drive especially, and especially West Links, if you stay on the west side.
Sure.
It's just nothing but solid trees.
And what we're willing to offer, which is kind of non-traditional, is we will stake those locations for the board or staff to review. Again, FPL does not trim trees, remove trees. That's not part of our scope or any of the
But
work
you're
that
going
we
to
do.
come to us and tell us for this to work,
We are not, no.
these trees need to be removed.
No.
How do we get the lumens if we don't?
That is at the choice of the board to look at the photometric plan and understand what field conditions look like to be able to get the lumens.
I just
to the
don't want to
ground.
wait,
So,
because I know whose head's going to roll.
I think.
You're going to be gone, I'm going to be here.
Understood.
I think that
Uh,
and sorry to cut you off, I think what Chelsea suggested at the meeting, which I thought it was a bit much, but it makes sense, and that was the reason why. The sooner FPL can go out there and stake up those things, and maybe you can review it, and then, but it would be staff really looking at it and seeing, okay, at least you have a guide, because if you have 20 feet poles over there, so if it's around 24, you have an idea what trimming needs to be done. But I think it's literally, once the stakes are in the ground, walking and going and looking it up and say, okay, this needs it and this
Well,
not.
right now, if we would do a lumen study in our community, down West Links, we would miserably fail. We know the trees need to come out.
Gateway would too.
We need to have them come out. I just don't want to take and do this and then have the whole community matter and hell at us that it's worse off than it was.
Agreed.
We can't make that mistake.
So typically FPL would come right before construction and stake it, but I've asked prior to us moving to final design, if we so choose, that we have them come out and stake these
Nice.
photometrics. And then there is some wiggle room, not much, but if we can walk it together, and if we realize that it's literally tree light post, then that's something we could.
Well, there's gaps right now, right? If you go down Gateway Green or West Links Drive right now,
Yeah.
you have continuous street or stoplight or streetlights all the way. This plan ain't gonna have it that way, because you're coming off of a transformer, I think 3 or 4 times, and you go so far, then you skip, take the next transformer, then you skip, take the next transformer. I don't have any problem with that. People just aren't going to be ready for that, because you're going to have spots where there are not poles that there are now. And it's not going to be as light. It's just that simple.
Well, the lighting's going to be at an appropriate level based on what the photometric design that was
If we
previously
can
done.
get the light to the ground
That-
and get the
yes.
trees out of the way. Okay. I just want to make sure everybody understands that in my community, because around my community, you start a chainsaw, and the first thing they think is that they wrap themselves around an oak tree.
Yeah. Well, we obviously want to be environmentally sensitive to your concerns.
All right, any other, Bob?
No, I don't
You
have
know,
anything to go. No, the only comment I would have is it relates to Pelican.
Yes.
One half of our community is 25 years old.
Yep.
We have the other half that's maybe 9 years old, 8 years old.
Yep.
So we may want to stage as we're doing it.
And-
Pelican Reserve Boulevard to begin with.
And just so you're aware, I actually have been out there, marked it. I've sent some information to Chelsea
Great.
to start that.
Great. Rather than just jump in, some of the poles are only 2 years old.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
okay.
So ultimately, at this point, with the revision of Mr. Tinkle's request of adding the rest of that area on Gateway Greens Drive, we did,
That's the only one I'm caught that I was really looking at closely.
We-
I'm hoping that all the other communities in here, we've already said that we did not do Fairway Lakes
Correct.
Office Park.
so we added, even though I know Tony's working with Charles Mann on the Eagle Point Drive conveyance. Was it, what word was it?
Eagle Point is ours.
It's ours,
We
okay.
just added.
Okay.
Girl Scout is.
Girl Scouts
Girls,
is
okay,
what
thank you.
we,
Did not.
that we
took
did
out.
not, we took
We
it
took
out
out.
because we're waiting on Tony, but unless we want to add it now,
Well,
that's the only, but because it's.
That's ours though. That's
Not
our
yet.
road.
No.
Girl Scouts ours, isn't it? Is this that deal with that one that fell through the cracks?
Yes.
Why would we take and do this project and do it half-assed?
Oh, no, so the concept is, like Chelsea
Do
said,
it
to
and get
take
it
that.
done right. If we have to do paperwork, we do it. But going in and doing this stuff, that's what Gateway's done
But
for
it's
30
included.
years, is they do it stuff ridiculous.
Did you-
Let's
did you
fix
get
this up if we're gonna do it and do it right so that the whole
It's out
community
right now,
looks
but it wouldn't
basically
match.
the
It
same.
would be an
Having those
immaterial
other
change
trees
to the
out there
cost.
or those other lights out
Be
there
about
that don't match
the-
is
Yeah.
ridiculous.
I agree.
Can you go back to that table that you had with the total counts,
Yes.
the one that says 297?
No.
That
On
one,
the other one.
I don't remember,
So it could be as much as 303 then if you add 6.
there.
There's, because I actually did travel Girl Scout, and I believe there's also 7 lights on Girl Scout.
How many?
Six or seven on
Yeah,
Girl
I
Scout
think
as
you're
well.
right.
It's almost the same as,
Yeah.
as
I
Eagle
think you're
Point, less the one in the parking lot.
And we have businesses on there, and we have the church. So that one going back along, well, all of those.
Sure.
The going to Devonshire, every one of those.
Devonshire
all-
has already been
Devonshire
taken
is
into
All in
consideration.
our community. They
Yes.
all should be treated the same.
Agreed.
The only one that's up in the air is Fairway Lakes Office Park.
which is not included as part of this project.
I know, and it's gonna look like crap. You gotta go down to the cul-de-sac, that beautiful new roundabout we're going to have, and you're gonna have lights, beautiful, going three directions, and the other one's gonna look like it goes into some foreign country. It's stupid. It's just stupid.
So,
Fix it now, and we'll argue the ownership later. Put it in the project and be done with it. Let's do it right. Why are we doing?
I mean, if, I feel like we're gonna create liability where there is none, because then what are you gonna do about the sidewalk that is literally 4 inches above ground?
Yeah.
So I prefer to not touch it, not create liability to the district, because if you're gonna do something for your community, you fix that sidewalk. So that's gonna be my thing on that. I think we
Something-
push them.
I'm
and
afraid
then-
we have the liability right. It's in Gateway.
Something I
We
may,
allowed it to happen.
They may have
Tony.
money, depending upon what happens in that eminent domain action, that dissolved corporation may have some money from Lee County, quite frankly.
Okay.
something also
But
to
I'll look-
mention is that this is, if you should look to add stuff in the future, we just would treat that as a separate, easy project.
Well, the
And
nice thing
and
is
it
the
would
way
just
you're
add,
doing,
we would add to this account.
the nice thing, the way you're doing it, coming off the transformers, makes this a lot more flexible.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas the other way, the system we've got right now, that flexible isn't the word you use with it.
It would be a lot of metered accounts and load centers at a
Okay,
at a 480
So-
volt
So let me
system
just
probably.
recap it. So we'll go ahead and add fair, Girl Scout.
Yeah.
Because it's not there, so we add that
That's fine.
now. And then near future phase will be the easement, the FPL easement, what do I call it, the linear park?
Yeah.
And then that area.
Well, what happens? Let's just say we kick the can down the road. We had pretty good luck in doing, and we don't do Fairway Lakes Office Park. What are they gonna do for lighting?
what are they doing for it now?
They can
Well,
engage with FPL and do the
but
same
it
thing.
exists right now. The
I
480 may not exist in the future if you're turning it off. What are they gonna have for power to power those lights?
They're not removing it. I mean, they can, right now,
No,
they can
there's no-
engage.
Where's power coming from? You're not doing 480 anymore, correct?
Not for-
Go down to the, Denny Grimes's office.
Our other office, our other office?
Yes.
Okay, that.
Oh, the circle
Yes,
around
yes.
there.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
All that's on there. If we lose that, how do they get streetlights
Yeah,
if there's no more
okay.
480?
Now, I do remember, speaking of that roadway, and again, the ownership question is why we had pulled that from scope.
Something to say?
Yes.
Then come here.
Who's on here?
It's Bill, our Bill.
Why, I raised my hand.
Well, my point is that right now, let's do the right thing, include all that stuff. We can always come back and drop it out. I don't want to get back done here and then say, oh, did we pull your 480? You don't have service anymore.
I will be honest, adding stuff is going to be more cost effective for the district, because should you look to remove things, that's going to be a costly endeavor if it's been installed.
So we can,
Those lights are not operational.
That's not my question. Should they be, that's dangerous down there without lights.
The transformer that's there is 12240. There is a step-up transformer built into that service that feeds those lights that made them 480 in that scenario.
So if we take them
But
out,
there's not 480 there anyway.
if we omit them from the project, and we go with this, which is what, 110 essentially?
12277.
120, okay, the rest of it. If they want to have or energize or re-energize their lights and have sidewalks and do what's right, can they? How do they do it?
They work out of that existing cabinet, which knows whether that equipment operates or not, because there's no power going.
Okay, Tony, can we take and do it as a special benefits to that area and just bill them?
I guess the question I would have, are there existing streetlights within the road right-of-way track? Do we know that? at Fairway Lakes.
I'm
There
pretty
is a
sure.
utilities, an easement for drainage and utility purposes on, over, and under Tract A, which is the road, granted to governmental agencies and to public utilities having authority to provide for such services. I think there is an easement on
Well,
Tract A
my
for,
thing is that
for
what we're
utility
arguing about who
purposes
pays for it.
and
That's,
government.
that's the issue. That's what we're
Well, then,
arguing about, who's
we,
paying for
yeah,
this.
we could levy a special assessment just as to them for
Why can't we do that?
And do it now, do it at one time.
If you do it now, then
Yeah.
doing a special
Yeah.
assessment for those residents, those,
Well, we have to wait till
Property
next
It
owners,
year.
just,
to do
yeah.
that.
it just looks like it's not been considered when you do it. You go down there and you have this beautiful new lighting system, and then you got that Achilles heel over there. That's ridiculous.
I'd be okay
Ridiculous.
with the special assessment.
Yeah,
Can't be that much money.
There will be an additional transformer there because of the mountain. So I don't know-
Anyway,
I don't know whether it will be a Delta Bank or but there will be a way to power.
how many transformers are down that road?
A lot.
2, 3?
I'm sure we have no problem with an access
That's
point
what I
there.
thought.
Yeah. There's no problem there.
Okay.
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 Letting you know what I know.
Thank you, Bill.
Thanks, Bill.
All right, so no other questions from,
Well,
for
I
us?
guess, do we have a decision for Fairway Lakes Office Park? There are,
I say add it in at least at this time so that we know what we've got. We always take it out, but we can also special assess them. There's a whole bunch of people down there that, including us, that's ridiculous. There's no lighting. That's dangerous.
That's,
They do
to
that.
me,
by-
you're starting to border on the, what's best for the greater Gateway good,
Yeah.
you know? And it is, that area is used quite a bit by Gateway residents. But I don't think we should be just doing it for nothing.
Well, I don't think so either.
I
think we
think
just
if
build
I, if I were to go with, inclined to go with your, to adding, it would absolutely be a special assessment to them.
So we
Totally
might have
agree.
two specials.
They don't, they
Yeah.
aren't paying.
Yeah.
Can't do it at this budget cycle. We don't have enough time to do it. Because we have to send
We
out
have to do it next
notices.
year.
So
So
that-
we could plan it in and plan the special assessment to hit next year.
I can
You
do
do
that.
a
Can you do
report, do the notice,
do
we
that.
get the project. we can
But
sell
at
it.
least we got a plan.
Or
to
can
it.
we do it off cycle?
Yes, but, yeah, we can do it off cycle, we can direct bill, or we can wait until
I
next year.
prefer us not do it off cycle.
Okay,
Yeah,
I'm
we- then we
just
can-
asking the question.
We
That's
can
a lot
begin
of
to-
work.
Yes.
What we can do is begin work, levy the assessment, then collect it on the tax.
Or we could do, perhaps create a different fund like we have
Well-
for the town fund.
When,
Like-
when,
Next time.
what's, target completion on this?
We'd be probably looking at summer '24.
Okay, so
We wouldn't have, yeah,
we
Some-
wouldn't even be
summer
operational
of
until
next
next year
year.
anyway.
we're pretty close to fiscal 20.
Yeah,
We'll
so
be setting the budget for next fiscal.
next
Okay.
year would be right in line with go live anyway, so I think that's the plan. That's what I would vote for.
I'd support that.
So
Okay,
we're
so that-
adding
is that-
Fairway Lakes Office Park,
Yes,
including Girl Scout, and then the additional lights past the clubhouse on Gateway Greens Boulevard.
With the contingency that special
Special
assessment comes with it.
Yeah, what we would need is a separate report from FPL for the streetlights in Fairway Lakes Office Park. That would be defining the project. That's a project that the board would adopt with an estimated cost, and then that's how we handle
We
the
can refer
process.
back to it.
But that wouldn't be, go out to property owners for the hearings that are required in the mailings and all that.
It would be contained within this account. We'll treat that as a fully separate project, design, cost, everything associated with it.
Yes.
Do
That
we
I
have,
think meets what you're discussing. Yes,
do
that's
we
no
have a
problem.
copy? I was looking for this presentation. I couldn't find it, so this
Yeah.
must be something extra. Do we have a copy of this?
You will.
I just got this
They-
at the start of the board meeting.
They were
Yes.
working hard on it.
That's why when I saw the 297, I said, I
we're
know
over
I
here
read
working on it.
277.
Literally
Yes.
hot off the press.
Yeah.
Burning up the calculator when I walked in.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I
So-
know new light number 277 was down there at the end of Commonwealth Drive, so that's why I
okay,
was
so
wondering.
Chelsea,
what's going on.
recapping, so we're clear, we can move on to the next
So,
item.
Well, what we would. what-
Gateway Greens,
The extension of Gateway
Big-
Greens,
yes, Girl Scout
flop.
and Flop.
And then, so what we need, correct me if I'm wrong, Eric and Zach, what we would need is an approval to enter into agreement with FPL, including the amendment of those 3 items that were listed, and to move forward with finalizing design and moving forward with the project.
I so move.
So we have a motion, do I have a second?
So
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
As an additional item, In the agreement, it talks about, it talks about FPL will remove and dispose of all customer-owned concrete poles and fixtures. I'd like the board to adopt a resolution. We can wait until the next board meeting. I can have a written resolution that would declare them surplus, that they are
I
poles,
was going to
fixture,
ask you
handles,
about that.
obsolete, continued use of which is uneconomical or inefficient. That way it can be disposed of in however means that FPL believes is appropriate. So
Do you
I'll
want that,
do-
do you want
want
the
that
motion
today or
now?
next
We can-
meeting?
I can have it for,
To what extent what are you going to do with those poles?
tell them
right
one,
now,
give them one
because
example.
So we had a community with about 220 poles. We actually donated them to the Artificial Reef Program out in the Gulf
Well,
of
what I'm
Mexico.
thinking of is we tried, when we've had somebody have an accident in an automobile, take a couple of them out. We've had that, the hurricane. Trying to find those poles is not easy, and they're expensive. They're like maybe $3,500. If we would have an inventory of those poles someplace, maybe 5, 6, 7 of those,
They would- go ahead.
So-
I'll
so
you-
let me-
I
so-
asked that question. Go ahead.
I'd store them here. We can store them.
Our-
Nothing's going to happen to them.
Those are probably not current wind rated loaded poles. And again, we have our own
Neither
specifications.
are ours that we got.
Yeah, so as part of the maintenance agreement, if, those poles are damaged, that's our responsibility to put new poles up.
Have you seen the shop?
I'm sorry.
Have you seen the shop? We don't
He wants to
space.
build something.
Well, these you can lay outside that don't hurt anything, but the issue is I'm just trying to point out, a lot of communities here, that would be a very inexpensive way of being able to have an inventory if they have a broken pole or have a hurricane that knocks down poles.
Yeah, my concern is what Eric indicated, they're not hurricane rated. So if we were to give somebody one, even though we're gonna say, take it as is, where is, I think
It
we're
could be
running-
tough to find the specifications. Those are about 30 years old. They very well
The
may be,
95 or
but,
100 that I got aren't either.
and I guess
That makes a difference.
the clearest item though on
But they're
that
coming
is
down.
that, we couldn't use a customer pole on our system.
Okay.
So I gave,
Tony,
for
do you
board,
want a motion now?
for the board to adopt a resolution, prepare and authorize the chair to sign, declaring the poles that are to be removed and fixtures as part of this project as surplus, and dispose of them either through a donation to a governmental body, a 501c3, or any other means that FPL believes.
So I need that motion. So I have a motion. a
Yeah, I'll
second?
make that.
Second.
I have a second on favor?
Aye.
Yep.
Okay,
It'll come back for ratification at your next meeting.
thank you. All right, thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
Thank
Just,
you.
yeah, just email that to us, this last presentation.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I love the graph.
Proposed Daniels Parkway Apartments irrigation well presentation.
I believe we have the developer here, or owner.
Guys, I'm just gonna ask you guys, it's hard to really concentrate and with all the back talk, if you guys wanna have side conversations, you can just please step out.
So please,
Hi.
just.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Fred Hazel with Davis Development. I'm joined this afternoon by David Underhill of Banks Engineering, our civil engineer. Davis Development is the owner and developer of a multifamily community along Daniels Parkway. I believe that the board was presented a package that has some bullet points as well as some exhibits. Hopefully y'all were able to review. The purpose, obviously, of our visit here today is discuss the extension of the reuse water main in the process of our design and development. I believe it's a request of the staff of the district for us to accomplish that extension. In reviewing that, we found that it appears to be quite a costly extension that would be only to serve this project. And we've considered and wanted to consider with the board an alternative to that, in that the cost estimated, and it's really not a known quantity yet because of the path that we would have to traverse, probably as was discussed along other roadways, a lot of utilities, a lot of impediments to do so. So our thought was, instead of expending upwards of $500,000 plus in capital expenditure, to allow us to vary that, instead of extending that reuse main, to install a well system that would feed our irrigation needs for the community. And if we want, I can kind of go through some of the bullet points that were laid out in terms of how we might have gotten to this point with other allowances that were made in the district system and installation of. But, and so we can go into those details if you like, but that's the simple thought here, is to avoid that additional and what we consider kind of an extreme capital cost for the volume of reuse water that this project would actually use, which is estimated at about $20,000 per year. The board's thoughts on that and the potential allowance for that option.
Comments? Issue one is I think we got a legal problem that we can't even honor that request whatsoever at all. Anyway, I was a little disappointed that I brought this issue up at least 6 months, maybe a year ago, and it appears it was just ignored. Why aren't we going down Griffin Drive? It's not 3,000 feet, it's 1,700 feet by my calculations, and we can tap in off the Gateway Green or off of Griffin Drive, line right down the FPL easement on the side and come right into the northwest corner of your property. No more than 1,700 feet. Or just come straight across from the reuse tanks that you can see in the picture and tap almost straight southeast into your property.
Well, our
Much shorter runs.
Dave Underhill with Banks Engineering. Our concerns with those issues are, one, it's going to require us to go to FP&L and get permission.
Well, we're talking about going to FPL and doing the same thing up on the other side of Griffin, of putting reuse waste lines in there. Why are we afraid of FPL?
The other complication in looking at that system there and that FP&L easement is, boy, it sure looks wet to me. And I'm a little scared to try to get over there and start working in that thing.
This is Florida.
I mean, it looks like a
It's all
jurisdictional wetland to me,
No.
is what I'm.
Yeah, well, my thing is the bottom line is that I am of the opinion, we can't honor it at all legally anyway. We've got restrictions on well use. I just don't think we can legally do it.
Well, if that's something that could be researched, if it is truly a legal impediment, and I'm not questioning your words, obviously, sir, I guess I would ask that, not understanding some of the other avenues, one of the thoughts that I had and did not understand is the original proposed connection point was to the community just adjacent, what's that called?
Through Daniels.
Preserve
Daniels
Phase
Park.
2.
Yeah.
And it seems as though there was some allowance there that then mitigated that potential connection. Is there no way to establish, that would be the shortest route, least disruptive? Is there no way from an engineering standpoint for that to be established as a point of connection?
Is the issue Daniels connection the fact that they are a metered user as opposed to individual? Is that the sole issue?
Laura, Chelsea?
They are a master meter, Daniels.
I think that's the
they're-
problem,
They
is
are,
if they're a
they
mass,
are.
well, now there is another way, and that would be to put another meter where it goes into theirs.
Exactly. My thought was you add another meter, you read both simultaneous, you'll do math,
Now
and there you have it.
that, I don't know if there's any other issue, but just like Tony, let's just get out on the table and get rid of the issue that wells ain't gonna happen.
That's correct. The district's utility rule says it's the policy of the district and the requirements of this rule that there's not permitted the individual installation and use of any private wells or septic tanks without the express written consent of the district. And we also have agreements with DEP, the SRF agreements.
Mhm.
It says the district shall adopt as necessary and enforce requirements consistent with applicable laws for the owner, tenant, or occupant of each building located on a lot or parcel of land which is served or may reasonably be served by the utility system to connect such building to the utility system. So we have that mandatory connection requirement.
And
We don't want to jeopardize our SRF loan.
And I understand, obviously, I'm not an attorney and I have not reviewed all the documents to support the district's reuse main and how. I don't know if the historical actions of the district in allowances, in other words, I don't know the mandate upon the district and how capital infrastructure is typically effectuated. If it was all originally as designed planned for private developers to fund with no public reimbursement mechanism whatsoever. It's very unique in my 27 years of doing this to see that at this level of expenditure.
Well, this issue, in my opinion, as one board member, this opens a can of worms. But I'm all willing to look and see what their other alternatives are. I truly believe that the best one is to come down the FPL easement. But unless our engineer has a reason, if the issue is that Daniels Preserve is purely a single metered user.
They're a master meter.
Your master.
That's why you buy 2 meters. We just put another meter on your line and measure them both. So then the only issue comes down is that is your consumption going to be at a level that it's dangerous to the system? In other words, you're going to use more water than we can handle. What are you putting in? 500 apartment units?
Yes, I believe the total unit count's about 570.
So your grass area is not going to be real big. It's mostly going to be blacktop and rooftops.
I'm not sure what
Do we have an
landscape
equivalency?
area would be in acreage.
How
but
many equivalencies do you guesstimate? How many square feet of grass?
I don't remember the calculations were given to the district and.
Okay,
it was-
so we
it
have
was
that.
Come up, yes.
So I guess the question we ask is, Stephen, is why can't we tap off the backside on that lane that goes back off by the pump station at Daniels Preserve? Why can't we allow them a point of connection there with an 8-inch line? I think that's an 8 in Daniels, and let them make the distribution within their own community for the deal, and we do it through a registered meter. I mean,
Hey Ed, it's Stephen Agapi with Tetra Tech. From my understanding, from what staff has told me, the irrigation line in Daniels Preserve is not owned by Gateway. I think that is part of the issue.
You mean the line we're tapping onto?
Yeah, what they would be connecting to is privately owned and maintained by Daniels Preserve.
That's why you have intermunicipal agreements and contracts. We just simply go to Daniels Preserve and make them an offer they can't refuse. We come back and you're going to have offsite costs. That's all there is to it. If you're talking about $500,000 going the other way, I don't think the pot would have to be that sweet for Daniels Preserve to say, hey, we can use the revenue. Why can't we proceed on that option? What's wrong with that, Stephen?
I don't think there's any engineering response to that. I think that's more of a legal and.
The bottom line is it's never come up.
That
But that's not between us. That would be,
I understand, but I'm trying to come up with options for these people to solve a problem. And so the ball would be for you to go back, meet with the Daniels Preserve people, if, what is it, their HOAs?
Yeah, Francis.
And just call Francis and say, hey, what's it going to take to allow us to tap in onto your line? We'll meter it, so any large volume of water that goes through your meter is going to be deducted by our meter.
Would there be engineering data, given that we've estimated $1,000 a month, I believe, or roughly there between that and $2,000 a month? I don't know how many gallons that would be. Is there any engineering data that the district knows about whether that line would be sufficient to serve our needs?
What's your basis of coming up with that on flow? How many gallons per month are you using to come up with that?
Engineers,
we ran the calculations based on your rate schedule. You know, it's a little, there was different options, whether it's a 4-inch meter or a 6-inch, and how many gallons per month, and et cetera. So I was estimating it at around 1,000 to 2,000 a month.
If you're going to have a 6-inch meter serving that property, your base charge, that's outlandish. You don't want to do that. You don't have any justification for a 6-inch meter and a man in the moon. Somebody needs to look closely at what your gallon per minute peak is on the property you're going to have. Because I've got some other communities in here that have a lot more green grass that they're throwing water on, and they haven't got 6-inch meters.
Yeah, we have 4.
Yeah.
I have 4 inches.
So I think you could cut back on that, but the bottom line is that I think the ball's in your park to go back, meet with the Daniels Preserve people and say, hey, we'd like to tap on what's going to cost us.
To be clear, we have had discussions with the developer and the engineer of record for months. And if you recall, this was previously brought in front of the board verbally by myself, asking whether they could do the wells or if they were required to tie in. And the board at the time, this is probably 6 months ago, said that per the permit criteria manual, which that is our rules and guidebook right now as adopted, they are required to tie in. And so that has been the stance that staff has taken and provided to them.
Tie into our system.
Tie into our system. So now understand that the onus is on the developer to determine where the tie-ins. We have been more than gracious and given a lot of information to them of different options,
That's part of offsite work.
ultimately they have to tell us what they'd like to do, and we review it and either approve or deny it. Now, the issue between Daniels Preserve and the Daniels Parkway Apartments with regards to the tying in to the back end of that community, that's a private matter. That is not something the district would have any say or concern
But I
on.
think
But it
as-
is
as-
tying into our system and it is our water.
Correct, and they would have to tell us that that is
Yeah.
their intent, and then we would have to review and approve that.
I guess what Ed's trying to do is find another solution, and you're saying, yes, I get it, but that's outside, that's between the two of them.
That's theirs.
So now you have that information, now you know what tree to bargain.
But I think what they're asking of the board today is, would you entertain the wells idea, or are you requiring them to tie into the system?
And one more asterisk, and the well issue, I understand from you, sir, and both sirs, that from a legal perspective, that may be dead duck. But if it's a financial thing, we also thought an offer that would assist is, since the district wouldn't forego the revenue, we would meter the wells and pay you at your rate for your reclaimed water, but on the water we draw the wells. Since this doesn't serve another property, this extension, just again, I don't know if there's a way around the legal structure that would allow that.
So what do you,
That
what
would
do you
make the
put,
district whole on revenue, yet we don't spend $500,000.
you putting in a hydro-pneumatic tank or what? How you
It would
how
be,
you
I
running
believe
this?
that they would, a four well system.
Yeah, but what's it tied into? You've got to have some way to create the pressure on the water. You, a hydro-pneumatic tank or a storage tank, or what are you using?
Put the pumps right on the wells.
You're just gonna put it right on the system, pump on, pump off.
So that was another option that we thought of in our mind's eye in terms of the revenue, because we understand the revenue you seek from the reuse water sales. So again, just throwing that into the mix, if that was an option, if that was dovetailed together.
One other thing, and I believe I've had conversations with a couple of you regarding this. To give a little history, I've been here a year, right? To give a little history, I believe the Worthington had both of these parcels, the Daniels Preserve and this, I like to call it the Boot parcel. And had the amendment in the Daniels Preserve permit originally, had it not been amended, we wouldn't have this issue, but they amended their original permit to make it a master metered community. Now, the developer at the time decided to break these two parcels off, and so Daniels Preserve is a standalone, and now this is a standalone. So that is kind of some of the history of the reason why we are and why they are where they're at today with regards to trying to resolve this irrigation issue.
Steve, question, are you saying the lines that are within Daniels Preserve are not subject to the operation and maintenance of our utility? We don't pay for them?
You know, up to the meter. It's a master metered community.
Oh, so inside their community, all those lines in the ground, in the roads, anything breaks, they fix it, not us.
I'd have to go back and look at the conveyance documents.
Well,
but
if
that's
we
my-
fix it, it's ours, by God.
Well,
Why are we having it them? They can't have their cake and eat it too. Nobody else in Gateway gets away with that. So the issue is those lines are either totally ours or they're theirs. And if they're theirs, they do the maintenance on them. That's ridiculous.
and that's how it is for us, because we had that issue with the break inside and we weren't sure. And Tony went and said, your master meter, it's
on the
broken.
downside.
It was on my
Your side,
dime,
yeah.
so.
So another option. What's the deal with Timberwood Preserve? Timberwood Preserve is a dead-end line that connects into Griffin Drive that is right adjacent to your property. Most of our irrigation lines are either 6 or 8 inch lines. Why wouldn't we be able to tap in and meter at the cul-de-sac at the end of Timberwood Preserve? That's another option.
I don't know if Timberwood Preserve is a master metered community as well, or if they're single family, or if they're metered at the single family, but that's
I was not aware of that. I thought
this one.
they had individual meters.
Timberwood.
Timberwood Preserve is a metered community again? Timberwood Preserve.
Bill's saying master meter.
It's master meter, put a meter at the end.
I don't-
Those obviously are.
So there's
are
two
options that
options
we
that you
love
would
to
have.
look at, because that would obviously impact that capital cost greatly.
But I want an answer to that deal about the meters. We don't go in and fix those guys' system downstream if
it's-
that belongs to them.
No, if it's master metered, we own up to the meter.
Correct.
And Daniels Preserve is master metered.
So then it's just a matter of going to them, seeing if you work out a deal.
So I guess then, our other option would be, as was discussed, crossing the FP&L easement coming directly to the facilities here. Is that correct?
Steve, why wouldn't they be able to do that if just going, what is it, FPL Eastman 640 feet across? Go 640 feet and tie into the line that's purple on this map that we're looking at, and just go straight across and tie right into their community. Minimal.
It's an option. It'd be, there's definitely some permitting they would have to do. They would have to look at, wetlands there. They'd have to work with FPNL.
You don't need
But
to ask
yeah, I mean, it's
this up months ago.
possible.
Make that call.
So that, I believe, and Stephen can correct me if I'm wrong, underneath that FPL easement, I believe that's owned by Lee County. And then, I mean, they would have to do like we would
On
have to
that
do.
side.
Yeah, they would have to do like we have to do with all of our permit applications for anything under that transmission line is go for a consent agreement with FPL.
Just so that you have the background, we're looking at using the other side for distributing excess water. So we're gonna have to go in there also.
We've already
I
applied.
just don't see what the issue is. If we were putting in a structure or something that was above ground, that'd be one thing. But we're putting a pipe in under the underground. It's
Yeah,
not gonna impact
I
anything.
recall in the past from the district many, many years ago, wanted to run I think a line up parallel to the FPL easement, northwesterly. FPL had heartburn about running it parallel, but they apparently did not have an issue with running it perpendicular, was my recollection.
Well, keep in mind, we were talking about on the strength line, extra strength line, going north up toward Stony Brook and Prado and Pistoia. We were going to go up the edge of the easement and then make the 90 degrees straight across. So it's not that it can't be done. Somebody just needs to go and ask. Now, if they come back and say, no, hell no, then we know where we're at.
Did you get your answer?
I believe so. David, do you have any other questions in terms of what we need? Pardon?
If you want to speak.
Well, if I may summarize then, from my chair, it sounds as though to study coming under the FP&L easement directly from the facility, see the viability of that. And I guess that's talking with FP&L, and I don't know what other parties. Otherwise, it would be us approaching one of the two communities adjacent and see about a potential to agree with them. Short of that, then we're back to the original 3,000 feet.
To me, I just don't understand that option. That just seems to me to be at the end, overkill. That's overkill.
Well, that's why we're here today, obviously, as we looked at that. So I guess I would say we appreciate your thoughts today. We'll head in that path. We'll be in touch, obviously, if there's any questions and assistance from staff, and we appreciate that.
All right, thank you. All right. It is, you may want to,
Yes, it's pouring out.
I know. All right, so fiscal year,
Thank goodness.
yeah, because we're not gonna
My
take
bad.
any, yeah. So fiscal year 2024 budget discussion.
We brought this up months ago and they just ignored it.
Yeah.
So you want me to just start on these items real quick?
Yep.
So considering the board's direction previously with the adoption of D, E, and F on consent, then we would remove the landscape cost out of the Stony Brook budget, and then the 5%, of the landscape maintenance staff's person time from the
Okay.
the
So on
salary.
page, so on page 219 or page 21 of the budget, the line item for 126,000, that would be
Page
uh,
21.
page 21 or 219.
Yeah, the 126,000 is what you're talking about, that's removed?
Yep, so that we remove that. And then they also had a request to remove the emergency reserve fund on the following page, page 22, for the $20,000.
What's their monies they've got? We did that and consented to that, as I recall, Pelican.
Because they
had a ton of cash.
Because we've already got a $200,000 per annum increase.
Yes.
But what do we have over there that's our backup and safety for making
Well,
that decision?
I think what Margaret was saying is that they would come up with the money. I don't necessarily, I mean, I can ask her to come up, and I don't know if they have the money, but they would be responsible to coming up the money. Margaret, do you want to come up and just clarify that?
It doesn't mean,
Rain?
does that matter?
Yeah, it's right.
Jeez.
Oh, yeah, because
Yeah, look
they only
outside.
took it
Oh, I see
for
it now.
Pelican because they had it.
And we
If
do
Pelican
have
says that she doesn't
carryover
have
from
it, then-
previous years. I can't imagine needing $20,000 for any
But
emergency.
the question is, do you have the money same as Pelican? Or
Yeah.
you have to
The
generate the
reason
money?
we removed it from Pelican
Yeah.
was he currently have 200,000 per year. We have a couple million in the reserve, but we already put a $200,000 per year contribution to it. So when the hurricane hit Ian, PPAC said, we ought to have an emergency fund. Well, you know, it's kind of double it up. It'd be taking the reserve from 200 to 240. That's the only reason they came out, is they already had plenty there.
And my question was, do we have cash available to offset not having that money? What are we talking about, $20,000?
Yeah. See, because we took down, did we take down the money for the sugarcane virus? We did, right?
Yes.
So that's why I'm reluctant in removing this, because we took the whole 50,000. And then we all know it's happening, and then to say exactly what the cost will be, I don't know.
So
Because I don't know how much it's gonna be affected.
Since we're taking over the landscaping, the most that you're gonna have for emergency funding for any repairs is landscaping, and Stony Brook's already taking that.
the guardhouse is still the district's asset that we still have to account.
Guardhouse,
And
street
it was street
signs.
signs, I mean, there was a number of things.
You,
that-
you asked,
Would you be comfortable reducing it to 10,000, so there's something there? Because if it's just the guardhouse, right? And
Well,
somewhat,
I think we need to say, emergency fund is there for an emergency where critical funds are needed in order to maintain operations or to avoid risk or whatever. We have to evaluate what assets do we have in Stony Brook that in the event of a catastrophe or an emergency would require funding up to $20,000. You know,
Do we have that money?
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it, in the event of an emergency that costs, and 20,000, we're actually just pulling that out of our, you know,
Right.
you know what?
That's exactly right.
It could be
Yeah,
A
10,000.
number
It was
go down
40,
there.
Is there monies available in the event of an emergency, a critical failure or something that Stony Brook
Yes.
can pull into, whether it's reserved or something else? So
Yes. Yes.
I'm comfortable.
so
if that falls on.
if you look at the document here, Laura, if you wanna,
This is their, the financials as of June. I don't have the July ones yet. But their reserves are, they have $383,000 in reserves, 125 for capital, and then the rest isn't unassigned.
That's fine.
so.
That's fine.
yeah.
but keep in mind too, that they have an asphalt restoration project that'll be forthcoming to you all in the next month for your approval, and I think that was a little over $100,000.
But
And
they still have
they're
it.
carrying the risk.
Yeah, worst comes to worst, they could do a special assessment for the
They're carrying
emergency.
the risk. We're carrying.
And I don't think that would be necessary. I think
Probably not.
Stony Brook would pull it from our reserves.
I mean, I would have
If
been
we had
concerned if the cost of the project was 290 and they had 300, you know, but I think they will have, even if it's with 100, they will have enough.
We'll have a base sale.
Okay.
If they've got, the money, and they say they have the money, then I'm
Yeah.
very good.
Yeah, I'm okay with it.
I'm
If we
okay
need some
with it.
money, we'll have the women's club do a bake sale or.
So
So just to be,
So
to be
we're
clear,
removing
just
the
to summarize,
120
for 004, I'm gonna remove the 126,000 for landscape, remove the landscape position from the staffing, and then remove the $20,000
So
in emergency
The landscape
reserves.
position from the staffing will move to the 001 fund.
Right, we'll just shift that 5% over the.
Okay, so those are the three items?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is there any additional items that you'd like to discuss with this budget discussion prior to us moving to
For Stony Brook?
For anything.
anything?
Be enough next week, or 2 weeks.
For any.
I'd like to get as many of them in, so we're like kind of where we want to be by then. We do have a generator, so it will.
It actually got brighter. Yeah.
Okay,
And also, I'd
It
like
did,
to
right?
ask the question, the O&M reimbursement, won't that reduce?
It's in,
No, that's the number that we got from, no, because the landscape was separate. I'll have to review.
we have to look at the
I'll have
details
to
of
review
the O&M.
detail I got from the landscape on that.
Okay. And
I don't believe so.
I don't believe so either.
And will there be a version 4 of the budget for
Yes.
the next meeting?
Yes.
And these things will be removed?
Absolutely.
Yes.
That incorporates all.
All of the comments that you can give us today, that way we can have close to a final copy.
So that'll be that'll be the.
So far,
The
the last
the
one.
deal from which we go on 2 weeks.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, good.
Okay, yes, Doug?
I don't have
The,
anything else.
I'm gonna
Well, I have two of them, but I'm gonna hold them until we can run it by P-PAC.
Okay.
The next meeting.
That means I won't have them in time for the meeting. They have to be published by the 10th.
Well, Stephen will
Well,
run it.
but it's a version 3. Okay, but help me.
Version,
Are we able to take version 3 to P-PAC and make a suggestion that funds be reduced?
Yes, and bring that on the
At the next
17th.
meeting, and then
yeah, but it
Stephen will
won't be in
crunch them.
version 4.
But they won't be here in version 4 when you get here.
So you'll have to do that live at the meeting on the 17th.
Do it live.
That's okay.
They can come in. and-
That's okay. It's a reduction.
Yeah.
Nobody's gonna fight a reduction.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, you'd be surprised. People find reasons to fight about all kinds of stuff.
Is there any other items?
I had nothing, I don't have anything.
Can I ask one last question? I'll make it real quick.
Yeah.
And it's going back to page 3 where it's got the Stony Brook amount of $767.20.
Hold on, let me get there.
Page 3.
Okay,
Yeah, it's got the Stony Brook amount as $767.20.
okay.
But if you look at the end, and I know this is gonna change, but even for this version, if you go to page 22, the bottom line is 573,008. And if you divide that by 778 homes.
Wait, hold on. So then you're looking on the green area, 573,008, right here.
Yeah,
Okay, divided by,
778 homes. That comes to $736.51 per house. So I'm wondering where the other $30.69 comes from per household. Because if you multiply that by 778, that's almost $24,000. So what's the difference between the 767.20 and the 736.51 when you divide these out?
You recall I asked that about a month ago, and I was told you divided it out, and now all of a sudden, it doesn't show the math. Stephen needs to tell us why is it not
Is
working?
that the discount again?
yeah, the 4%.
Discount.
Okay,
Yeah, it could
Stephen,
be
are you,
that
are you
4%.
online?
That could be true.
Can you just take a note and get that to him?
Yes.
I found the 767.
She's talking about this.
You can't do straight math. man.
Yeah, and that's what I thought the last time.
Divide that by 778. Doesn't equal the amount of money.
That would make sense.
Okay.
It's-
Can't do straight math.
I don't think it's that simple.
Okay.
It's that simple.
So we get back when
What's the
Stephen,
difference?
$24,000, you say, Margaret?
It's this right here, it's the discount, 23,000.
It's the 4%, I know. I had it on my
Okay, because
notes.
that's not included. Can we add the 4% in there?
It is.
It is, that's why. Because you have to assume that,
People are gonna take advantage of the discount.
exactly.
The actual assessment, if you look here, is this $596,883. And then this $23,875 is the 4%, so that's added in. So if you take the $596,883 and divide it by the house.
And where is the 596
It is on
located?
page 21,
Page 20.
Under revenues.
under revenue.
Okay,
So you have to take the
Okay.
special assessment levy, that's the number that you use to divide out. Because that's the amount that's gonna go to the tax collector.
okay. The 596,883 is what's going to, okay,
Mhm.
I got it. Thank you.
Yep.
All right, so then we don't have to ask many questions on that. All right, so next, any other questions on, no, nothing, we'll move on. Okay, district manager
Yep,
items.
I just have one item that Rod Senior brought up earlier. You did get an emailed report of the Jeffy Pasademo report. Lou Diaz, I can't say his name. D'Agostino.
D'Agostino.
So my ask to the board is, would you prefer him to be on the September 7th or on the October 5th meeting? October 5th being the one that Rod Senior can attend, and the September 7th he cannot.
I think we should do it earlier rather than later.
I do too. I don't want this to get cold. The minute this gets out on the streets, we'll have the county want to know what's going on. Just be
And not only
straight
that-
with them immediately.
Not only that, Rod's invested a lot of time. I think it would be in good faith to do it when he's around.
Well, but
Well,
he's
if
not
you're gonna do
around
that,
here.
he's
On the
gonna go
first meeting
back
he
up.
is.
No,
No,
no.
it's
Oh,
the
he's on the
opposite.
second one. Oh, okay,
Yeah,
I'm sorry. I
that's
got
the
that backwards.
problem.
Oh, okay.
I mean, that's.
We can
that's
do it
proven
more
this-
timely without Rod, or it's his daddy rabbit,
Yeah.
and we wait until
I mean,
he's
as
here.
long as he said he didn't mind, and that's fine.
Your problem is, this has a lot of ramifications.
I'm fine
Of
either
doing
way.
this.
I think
Because
we'll do it
it's-
September 7th, and then if anything else, we come back to the October 5th.
Well, if we do it to the 7th, we hear from Lou, we're not going to make the decision right there on the spot anyway. But at least we will have heard, Rod's already had the ability
question
that
that-
he's talked to him.
Yeah.
We need to get our questions answered so that on the 7th, when Rod is back, we're all up to speed
So-
and we can.
One thing I would suggest, though, if you do have questions, I'd like not to blindside Mr. D'Agostino, so if you could provide those in writing,
To you, and you compile them all?
and I
Okay.
will send them to
Would you
Lou.
make sure to include the four questions that Rod Senior had?
Yeah, if I can get them from you.
Yeah, how do you know I wrote down?
Don't embarrass him and ask him, are we going to win? I mean,
Yeah,
that's a
mine is
slap
that
in the
one.
face. That's ridiculous,
So we will schedule him for September 7th, in person.
if you can do it, yep.
Okay,
He already penciled us in for those two.
Do you want those, do you want them now, or you want me to?
I'll get
give
them
it to
from you
Later, okay.
That's all I have.
All right, so District Attorney? Tony, you have
Looking
any-
at a number of items in Chelsea, as far as Pelican Reserve, we pretty much just have the graphics to wrap up the exhibit, the easement for VIA. Council signed off on it from both sides. So I think we just, Will Cronin and Passarella doing a great job on the graphics. They're gonna create one that's more legible upon recording, so that should actually wrap up and should be on your board agenda, knock on wood. If not, next week, the first one in September.
will that be available for the PPAC meeting next Thursday?
Hopefully, if we'll, yeah, I
Okay.
would like to have it all ready by then. And as Chelsea and Flavia mentioned, working with Stony Brook on those agreements, got that wrapped up. Revised sidewalk easement for the county wants for the admin building site. So revised it based upon Eric Fay's comments. We had a nice conversation with Eric today. The Stony Brook roads, the takeover, the conveyance to Lee County. Right now, Joe Adams came back and saying, thank you very much for giving me a proposed form of the consent, but we first need an official statement position by Stony Brook Association. Margaret's going to take the ball and run with it. Partially, I think, right? Or Darren, you and Darren and Joe?
No,
Okay.
Okay, Margaret, if you want to speak, I was gonna bring that as a supervisor comment, but.
Oh, I'm
if you
sorry.
want- Yeah, no, that's fine, but I just want Margaret to be able to hear, so we have it. So I spoke with Margaret yesterday regarding the email that Tony forwarded to us regarding what Joe Adam just mentioned. And Margaret had questions, and I pretty much just said, at this point, you call Joe Adams, because I didn't have the answer, and I don't think Tony would have just been the middleman. Because our understanding as a board was, once you give it to us in writing, that starts. But they give that in writing to us, and that's not what the county wanted. It was in writing to them.
So they're the ones who are procuring the votes.
No, I think,
No.
I think what Joe
HOAs.
Adams said, that we, the county, want to hear from the association. And so that Flavia forwarded that email
Yeah,
to
but after
Margaret.
that occurs, how is it actually implemented?
I think that's what.
HOA.
That's what we're,
That's what I said,
that's
the
what we're-
HOA.
Yeah.
we are, we'll be procuring the 80%.
That's what I.
And I turned immediately around and Joe and I contacted Joe Adams' office, and we haven't heard back from him yet, but we have an email into them asking the questions that we had. So we're waiting to hear back from them.
Yeah, and then Tony.
But
would-
whatever they require, we'll do.
Yeah, because I mentioned to Margaret, if anything, the email that Joe sent to us, or I don't know if it was Joe, or Gary, saying that that's the route they're gonna take, we just forward it to the county, if that would be sufficient. But at this point, since I contact them, whatever they want, go there,
Well,
and then.
and so I want to be clear, because I know that there were some emails too. This is an HOA process from this point
Yes.
forward. The district is not getting surveys, the district is not getting involved in that sense.
No, because there's no requirement, my understanding is there's no requirement for us to do so.
Okay,
My understanding, the requirements, once she reached out to Joe Adams and they say, yes, please, this is what we need you to state. They send that and state, yes, this is that's the route that we want to take. Then the next step is collecting the 80%. If they don't even meet that, then it's gonna be dropped there. If they meet that, then whatever county says, what's next step, then it goes, right?
Okay.
That's my
Yes.
Yeah,
understanding.
and then we get involved.
Yeah,
think.
then we get, then we get
Okay.
What
involved. So
would be the next step?
Well, we need
Just
to,
the physical
well,
transition?
will be a quick claim, be quickly from either an RWCI underlying fee. We would quick claim our interest in the roads and then coordinate all that for then the county to quick claim it or abandon and vacate, do whatever action.
Just making it happen then?
Yeah, the simultaneous dance that has to occur.
Okay.
So the only thing that I will ask is one, which I did ask this to Margaret, I said, once you contact Joe and Joe responds that this is what we need, and when she provides that, to provide that either copy Tony or myself, so then we know that it was done, and now the HOA is gonna work on the 80%, and that's on them, and only when that's ready, then they'll come to us, or if needed, for whatever we need,
No
right?
problem, we'll do.
That's kind of, we was very clear, like, that's, yeah.
So Tony, I just have one question with regards to the 3 items that the board approved today. So they approved it today, so then that means we'll draft all of those documents. For instance, the amendment to Mainscape will deliver the updated Exhibit B tomorrow, or as soon as we possibly can.
Yes.
Okay. So then we'll make the effective Mainscape date tomorrow, amending.
Rectify it
Yeah.
on the 17th, yeah,
Yes.
that's fine.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, thank you, Margaret. Go ahead, Tony, anything else?
Nope, no, ma'am.
That's it? All right, future board business?
Agenda management.
Nothing. When are we to hear something on the building, permitting?
We are working through some of the comments, the first round comments with large first round comments. Trying to schedule a meeting with the county staff who provided review, the community development director,
Comments about what?
the submittal,
The plans?
yes.
What kind of questions are they asking?
They're requiring us to meet commercial design standards, and we're not a commercial entity, we're a governmental entity, so we have to get clarification on that, because with the commercial design standards comes a lot of changes.
Such as?
Requirement of peaks,
Architectural details probably.
architectural details for the building.
Why would they not know that?
Are you talking about similar to what happened with the FBI building?
I
When they
don't know
had,
what happened
when
with
they
the
had
FBI.
all stone and they had to remove all that?
I don't know, I think they want us to add stuff.
It's probably,
Oh.
usually they have articulation, corners, turns,
Yes,
Okay.
pavers,
My point is, why wouldn't they know that?
they being,
What are we
county.
educating somebody that doesn't know what they're doing?
or you mean a consultant?
No, the county.
The
Why would
county?
the county not know that we're not a commercial entity in a
they,
government?
they read the code at face value, and that's why we want to have a talk with the community development director and clarify things. So I'm hoping we'll have resubmittal by the end of the month, truthfully.
What else are they asking for that is ridiculous?
Should I
The
send him the
si-
list?
the-
Do you wanna send him the list?
The sidewalk, talking about an 8-foot sidewalk shared use path, the entire length of it. We're,
That goes nowhere and stops nowhere?
that goes to the 2 crosswalks, yes. So we're working through some of the details with their staff. And so we have to make all those edits, and then we can
And they're our friends.
resubmit to South Florida and resubmit to all of the entities. So I'm still going to be positive and hope that we have shovel in ground by the end of the calendar year. I'm still
Okay.
with that mindset. So on here, we're working through a lot of these items. Budget is the big item for the next meeting. We're trying to keep that light, considering budget's going to take up the majority of the discussions with public comment, et cetera, and the hearings. But if there's anything else that you'd like for staff to be working on, please let us know. Anything to add?
I don't have anything. Bob, Ed?
We do have, so just so you know, staff met with Arborwood Phase 3 with their HOA. I don't know if there's a difference between Phase 3 and just the Arborwood HOA, but we did secure their clubhouse for your next President's Council meeting. So it's
Very nice.
At Arborwood? Yeah, I've been
it's
in there.
theater,
It's nice.
in the theater.
So we do have, at the request of the board, the administrative building information. We're working on that FAQ. If there's other items that you'd like to see at that President's Council meeting, please let us know.
But their phase 3 is just a small fraction of their whole community that we have no impact on whatsoever.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. So, and then we also confirmed the dates for the strategic action plan, and those are going to be 2 half-days. So we won't hold you up those.
Those are the September
Yes,
20,
21st and 22nd.
which is a board meeting that we converted.
Yes.
So what different time?
President's Council meeting, and when is it again?
The
9/26.
When?
September 26th.
That's what I thought.
It's right here.
I'm
And
sure
then-
Georgia will be
Then
sending
the next
that
one
out.
is December or January?
It'll be December.
Can I request it that we do that at Stony Brook?
Sure. Board's good with that? Fine. We're always looking for,
What
try
are
to
the-
rotate.
Yeah.
What are the September workshops again? I know the dates, but
Thursday, Friday.
was there anything particular we were?
I'll send a detailed information out about kind of what to
This
expect.
is that training deal.
This is the strategic action plan that you're
Yes.
going to be drafting, yeah.
Okay.
Which I learned we have a
22nd,
vision and a mission
22nd,
statement. 21st and 22nd of September, half days. Food will be provided.
I know we're like dredging, because nobody wants to go out there.
Chelsea, can you send me the comment letters from Lee County on the commercial
Yes.
building designation?
Actually, I would like to take a look at it, and I'm sure. Ed
Yeah,
would
okay,
too.
I'm just looking at the land development
Would you
code and the
ask-
section on
Would
the
you want to
design
take a look at the
standards for
letter of the
commercial.
comments from the county?
And it's not a
Yeah.
commercially zoned
Yeah, I want to take a
property.
look at it too, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's not commercial component of this.
Keep in
And
mind,
Park.
these are first round comments, so there's a lot of them, but we're working through them. But yes, I will send those to the group.
She was trying to say, Ed, don't freak out.
When they
Thank
She
you.
looked
When
right
they-
at you,
when they-
and she's like, Ed, do not freak out, that's what
When
she
they,
said.
when they take them in, take the plans in, do they sit down and go over it with them? Or do
We
you
did
just
a-
go in there and dump it?
We did a pre-application meeting with them.
Because usually this kind of stuff doesn't happen.
And there were some things that apparently they forgot from that pre-application meeting, so, and we're working through that.
Who
If
is
you
it
have,
Who is it, our contact?
They seem open to discussions regarding some of the concerns.
we have a permit, like manager, that she's the coordinator.
Who
and
is she?
Aixa.
That was a good old Polish word.
All right, anything else for agenda management? I know y'all are delaying for the. And one last thing, I know Randy's working on the fishing derby. The board said that we wanted to have that fishing tournament, fishing derby, so we're trying to resurrect that, I believe, over Labor Day weekend.
Okay,
I have 2 comments. Did we do
and
supervisor
let's do
comments?
supervisor comment, we
You
start with
shook
Bob.
your head, so he said no.
The long-awaited natural gas connection for the guardhouse at Pelican Preserve. The gas installer today got the permit from the city, so it'll all be, totally buttoned up and finished by next Friday. If the main contractor has an electrical permit, which should have come with that, but we don't know that.
Okay.
So when we get the answer to that, but anyway, it looks like we're finally getting to the end of that rainbow. As we,
Tuesday. They're coming Tuesday.
yeah, but we won't, no, he just got the permit today, and he's gonna come to start. He told me he'd be finished.
Tuesday.
Yeah, he said he'll be finished by Friday.
Yeah. they're
I don't know how long it
starting
takes to do it. I've got 2 drawings to go over with the attorneys that we're gonna present to Heritage Golf when we get done here. If it's raining, I'll look at those real quick with you. And a question, if anybody, I guess this is staff and Tony, has anybody heard back from Lennar about the Prato concerns with drainage and/or? Okay.
Hold on, I'll tell, I
This
had
might-
followed up.
Might have just washed it
Hold on.
away.
It's only $700,000. I mean, it's not like it's a lot of money.
They're not rushing to get it back.
That's
so.
right. Since we told them they ought to finish what they were supposed to do to begin with.
Well, when they have to pay the premium again on the bond.
Is that what, I didn't know what
That-
triggered
that-
them to.
that'll
The
wake
last,
somebody up.
the last response I received was on July 13th, and the response from Mr. Heinball was, there is no new news here. Our legal team trying to coordinate with the HOA on addressing these tie-ins.
Well, the HOA is only one portion of it. There's the drainage portion, which is ours, and Stephen has a list of that based on the survey they did.
We
So,
provided that
okay,
list to
well,
them.
and I know you did. I'm okay with that. But I mean, there's 2 components. Ooh, I make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
No, that's all I got.
That's all,
Thank
Ed.
Yeah, what, I hear a lot of scuttlebutt over in my neighborhood about the budget. Have we got plans, alternative plans, if we have a full room, where we're going, what we're
Yes,
doing?
the church across the street. It was published in the ad.
They're going over there.
That is the overflow.
Overflow.
Overflow. Okay, that's it?
Yeah.
Looks like the rain and the activity on the soccer complex looks a lot better now.
Yes.
Yeah.
We have some issues. Manscaped has been put on notice about some sod that hasn't taken and that they need to replace it. And they have a time frame that they need to meet. So we actually have a follow-up meeting, I believe scheduled tomorrow. Monday. With them on everything Gateway.
And did we officially put them on notice?
Monday will be.
Monday will be.
We're
Monday will
going
be-
to, or we're thinking about?
No. We gave them the 2-week window they requested.
If they can
Monday.
finish all today and tomorrow and Saturday and Sunday, then no problems on Monday. If they cannot finish, I have a list. I'm meeting with staff tomorrow to drive around and combine the list because I still see it.
Because we're having problems in our.
Yeah, so tomorrow I'm doing a walk with staff, with the new Scott, right?
Yes.
And because the meeting, I was gonna do it on Tuesday, but their meeting is Monday and I wanted to give my feedback and, you know,
I think Freddie's been sick all week.
but he was on site today.
He was today.
Yeah, so we meet tomorrow and then give feedback on Monday and I'll probably ask to join the Monday meeting.
And I think it's very important, especially with a vendor like Mainscape. I would think we've given a lot of leeway up to this point.
I agree.
And so I think it's time.
More so
No
than-
double secret probation. It's like you have till
Mhm.
Monday, and if it's not resolved, then we're taking action. The other thing that I want to add is I was thinking about this when I was driving over. This might be a little too late now, but in the spirit of let's maybe change management, it would have been really nice for the county or maybe even us to do this. But as you're entering the construction area, it would have been nice to have a sign with a rendering of this beautiful roundabout with a fountain saying,
Texture of it?
this, coming soon, or, be patient. This is our future, something like that. So instead of people bitching about the construction, they say, oh, this is really going to be pretty when it's done. So it's all perspective.
I'll mention it at the Monday meeting.
They're more worried about the lane changes that happen every week, and it's getting them confused. That's the biggest problem.
And I don't know, I know we don't have any control over this, and I wish, I'm saying it for the record for those that are listening, if they can voice their opinion. We are investing too much in our community, and our residents are investing in keeping their, communities and homes, constantly upgraded. 7-Eleven has to do something. It is an absolute eyesore.
What's that?
7-Eleven.
Oh.
Absolute eyesore. Everything from the exterior to the interior. I mean, it's just, and I know there's nothing we can do. So I would just encourage the residents to, voice their opinion however they already know how to do that. But
I would piggyback on this. Years back, and this was specifically towards landscaping and roof. I remember I reached out to Chris and regarding to if we had any requirements for the commercials, they have to be standards, and they are.
Trust,
They are.
we know
Oh,
what the
there are?
admin building.
I thought there
we
was.
know.
No, they are. So I remember after fighting back and forth, they finally cleaned the roof, and that's when I discovered it was orange because it was pitch black.
Yeah.
So there's definitely that. I will tell you this: the underneath of the pumps, they're redoing the last few weeks. I don't know if you noticed that there's a construction area. So they're redoing the whole ceiling. They're doing some
I'm talking
stuff,
about,
but you're talking about the
there's
exterior
no
and the
mulch,
face.
there's no
Yes.
landscaping.
So there
it's
is,
just dirty.
And we
it's,
do have a
dirty.
PUD requirement that we can file, and I will tell you, mulch is there, landscaping is there by quantity, so it is there.
I think we can get a copy for that site.
Yeah.
And if there's landscaping requirements, mulch requirements, do not comply, then you can notify code enforcement. That's
Yeah.
what we do. So here's the deal, because it has to be installed at the time of the original construction, and they have to maintain compliance with DO afterwards.
Well,
There's
just give you a level of how this compares with, I don't know if any of you go over to the CVS at Jetport there by Cracker Barrel.
Yeah.
And pull out of the back of that.
Oh, that hump?
No, well, not the hump is horrible, but that lot behind the hotel with all that trash.
Yeah.
I mean, how many people look at that? That is disgusting. I mean, absolutely, just, and if the county isn't gonna do anything about that, you think they're gonna do anything here? They don't care.
So let me ask you this, Tony,
They don't
wouldn't we be
care.
able to enforce the PUD
County's a joke.
for Gateway?
It would be with the PD as well as probably the specific development. Yes, the code enforcement also enforces land development code. So if there's a requirement for bulk rating. I think if we get a copy of the development.
Okay. Or maybe the first approach is, Chelsea, would you be able to, do you know, I know Tiffany usually handles everything over there. Maybe like set up a meeting with her, follow up, and then if not, have Tony look at the development order. Yeah,
I'll pull the development order from the county.
You could just say that we'd like.
now's the time for them to do it.
Well, no, we can just say.
Yeah, right, that was
Do it
a
now.
mess right
When the
now.
roundabout finalizes, that we'd like to have everything around.
This probably hasn't done any good for their business.
Yeah,
It's almost impossible to get in and out of
They
there.
have big signs saying.
yeah, okay. So I don't think Todd has anything else. I just had the landscape walk, I'm just following with tomorrow with staff. The Stony Brook letter required for the road, which we kind of talked about, and then that's it. Those are 3 items that I have.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Second,
All right.
Thank you.
thank you.